What we do here is go back.
Oh, fucking... Hello. I was muted. I don't know why I was muted. That was very annoying. I definitely pressed the thingy-majig. Anyway, thank you Pandanus Rex for resubscribing for 51 months with Prime. Much love. That seemed much more genuine when I said it the first time, because it was just like, you know, off the dome. Whereas now I just feel like I'm just annoyed. I'm annoyed that I had to say it again. Not because you don't deserve to be thanked twice, but just because like it's so annoying. Oh, I'm shit at this. I'm annoyed at myself. I'm not annoyed at you, Pandanus. You did nothing wrong. This is on me. Maybe you should do it on Sincerity Cam. Oh, that's a point, yeah. Okay, I'll do that then. There's the text. Boom. Thank you, Pandanus, for 51 months with Prime. There you go. Still muted. Suck my dick, Cather. Fuck off. I can see on the thing it's not muted. What will also not be muted is me if Birmingham City score, because we're currently playing. They're my football team, Birmingham City Football Club. I may have mentioned them once or twice. Someone's fucking got to. Yeah, we're currently playing away from home, which is why I'm here rather than at the game. And it's currently 1-1 at half time against Wrexham, who people basically for Americans they're owned by the Deadpool. They're owned by Deadpool and Robert McElhaney, but Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds. So, yes. But it's, so if we score, I might actually ejaculate, and if we don't, or if we lose that game, I'll swear. Either way, I'm going to swear a lot. Yeah. I'm just. Anyway, we're watching Question Time. The main thing to bear in mind is we're watching Question Time, okay? No Justice and I. So it would probably fucking help if I sent her the fucking link, wouldn't it? Oh my god, I'm shit at this. Do you know what? Don't bother giving me any money in the form of bits or subs or memberships or super chats. Don't bother. Don't fucking bother. I'm not worth it. Honestly. Save your money. Go spend it on fucking crack. It would be less debilitating to your fucking mind than watching me. Fucking Christ. Thank you, Rohak, with 1 bit, you cheeky little cunt bag. Yes. Is QT okay on YouTube? I don't care anymore. Honestly, I'm not in the mood. If it copyright cucks me, then it does. Whatever. We'll fucking deal with it as we go. No, that's what she'll be expecting. Exactly. When I ying, the world yangs or something. Yeah. Or the other way around. Whatever. I thought my headphones were... Oh, we're back to muted content there. Don't do drugs. No, do drugs. Do lots of drugs. Do all of the... I'm joking. I should really clarify that, I think, on occasion. When I say stuff like, oh, take heroin and stuff, I am joking. I'm quite cynical about it all, I guess, because I saw my brother go through heroin addiction. So I feel like I've got the H pass, if that's the right phrase for it, where I can do jokes. But I forget that the rest of the world is normal, and maybe didn't go through that experience. So should probably clarify on occasion, I think. Anyway, the brown pass. Okay, yeah, that could be taken a couple of different ways. Giggity. Like when you talk about the New Zealand rugby team, the All Blacks, and Americans go, what? They didn't mean that. It's nothing to do with that, okay? Just chill. Just chill. It's not a racial thing. Don't get me wrong, plenty of racist stuff goes on in the Antipodes, but this is not one of those things, okay? A bit nervous about the wind up in Scotland coming our way. It's a bit of wind. It's a bit of wind,
The return of the sausages.
Just done day 4 of a 10-day employment tribunal hearing, been on oath for 2 days, and the lay member with a trade union background looks like he could be Kev's dad.
Thank you. Well, my dad was a union officer. He isn't anymore. He's now retired from that. But he was a union officer. Which means he was based as fuck. But now he's just old. Yes. Well, good. I mean, genuinely good luck with that, Kieran. You did come on and talk about that a while back. God, it's mad how long it takes to get through those processes, isn't it? But good luck with it anyway. Yeah. Hello there, Helena.
Hi there, Kev. How you doing?
I am extraordinarily well. All the better for your presence. How are you?
I am Doing reasonably well. I've had to spend all day looking at James Watt's face, though, which has been less than ideal.
Is that James Watt, the 19th century inventor, or the current day dickhead?
The current day decade. Unfortunately, it is the ex-CEO of Brewdog, because he got removed for being a dick.
Fair enough. Wow. Yes. We were going to be watching Question Time. I don't know if this necessarily counts as a trigger warning or whatever, but I'm currently also watching football, and it's my team that I care about. So, like, if I scream randomly, don't pay attention. It's fine. I'm not actually having a heart attack or anything. It's just for something happened in the football. Usually, if it's a game I'm dispassionate about, don't get me wrong. Whenever we've done streams together, I'm almost always watching some sport on the other screen, right? So that's just taken as a given. But usually, it's not a team I care about, because I don't usually like streaming during that, because I get quite tense. I've been known to just pace up and down, going fuck. But yeah, so that might happen at some point. I don't know. I can't promise anything.
That's fair. I mean, I'm in the lucky position in that the sport that I actually enjoy watching is Test cricket, which is never on when I'm streaming. Because it's either on, up until 6 or 7 p.m. and then I stream afterwards if it's in the UK, and if it's in Australia, it starts as soon as I finish streaming.
Well, yeah, exactly. What we need is the people of Eastern Europe to take Test cricket to their hearts.
It's true.
And then you'd be fucked. So. So when the Ukrainian cricket team, Ukraine probably not the great example, but you get the idea. They got plenty of fields. They could become a cricket powerhouse, I reckon.
Do you think the Russians are going to pump so much money into the Donetsk People's Republic that they'll have their own like mini state cricket team?
Yeah,
to try and encroach upon. Yeah,
they'll have the RPL. Yeah, just like if you remember what happened to Angie Makachkala, the Russian football team, who were like a 4th division team or some shit, and then an oil billionaire bought them, and they were briefly very, very sort of hyped up and got into the Russian Premier League, and they bought like 35-year-old top tier footballers from actual European teams, and then went bankrupt and don't exist anymore.
I didn't know that story.
Yeah, it's a fantastic it's a corruption laden scandal, frankly, but that's football, I guess. It's fine.
Well, that's basically, for the last like 40 years or so, that's basically been the modus operandi for basically all football. And especially in the last 25 years, where it's become either American or Saudi billionaires.
Pretty much. Yeah. Okay, should we crack on with question time, because it's going to be a doozy, I'm sure.
I mean, it's got Dale Vince on, so I'm assuming I'm going to be very frustrated by him. And it's got Matthew Paris, the man who said that some lives aren't worth saving, or something to that, words to that effect.
Yeah, no, it's going to be awful. Yeah.
I didn't realise Matthew Paris used to be a Conservative MP.
He was indeed, yeah.
Not surprising he ends up writing for the Times now.
Of course, yeah, he's one of those. He's like, when we talk about the establishment, it's Matthew Paris. He is.
Yeah, from gamekeeper to hunter to gamekeeper again.
Tonight we've come to Stockport in
I need
Greater Manchester.
One sec. I need to move over my YouTube chatters to Twitch.
I'm just going to keep it on YouTube. I couldn't give a fuck. If they copyright cook me, they copyright. I don't care anymore.
That's fair. But yeah, if you're in my YouTube chat, if you can click the link that I've just put in the chat, because we'll be watching Question Time only on Twitch because just on the off chance we get copyright cut. Apparently you've been having better luck with it than I have, but
yeah,
the first time I did it, and I literally got copyright striked, and it took me cancel my account for 7 days. And with my YouTube, I cannot risk that happening.
Yeah,
I cannot risk losing access to making content on YouTube, because that's where 90% of my revenue comes from. So I'm not going to take the risk. But if you're watching on YouTube, please click the link. It is in the chat. I've posted it 5 times. Click the link and join. And of course, if you do join and you're a Twitch and you're an Amazon Prime customer, what you can do is link your Amazon Prime to your Twitch and give a free subscription to me or Kev. it pays us with Jeff Bezos's money, keeps us employed here, and costs you nothing, and you get all of the benefits of being a Twitch subscriber.
Fair enough. Yes. Thank you to who the fuck was that? That's amazing. Thank you, James Holmes, for 20 gifties on the YouTubes. Much love, mate.
Hey. Very generous.
Yeah, I will.
Communism.
I will suck all of you. Any part of you. That's a fact.
Is it Tommy Dog asks, is there any way of making Twitch not buffer? What you probably need to do is change the stream quality down.
Yeah, probably. That's usually the issue. Or try it on a different internet provider thing. Like go onto Firefox or something. Sometimes can help.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, so I'm gonna end my YouTube broadcast now. If you're watching on YouTube, please go and click the link in the chat to go onto Twitch and watch us over on Twitch, okay?
But you can raid into me on YouTube.
I'm doing that. I will do
Okay.
that. So anyone who doesn't want to watch me over on Twitch, you'll be able to listen to me and watch Kev on Kev's stream as well. So you'll still have access on YouTube to watch there. Assuming it doesn't get taken down.
If for some reason you're allergic to Twitch, but you still want to hear Helena, the only place you can do that is on my YouTube. Watch vicariously through me.
Pretty much. Anyway, that's ending now. See you in a sec, folks.
Hello there, Mix Vivian Wolf. How the fuck are you? I hope you're well. Everyone go and follow Mix Vivian Wolf on all of the platforms, otherwise I will stab you with love. With a knife made of love.
That's concept of love.
That's poetic, so it's fine. It's absolutely fine. Hello, YouTube people that have just raided in. Hit the subscribe button. It's literally free. It's literally free.
And like the stream.
And like the stream, and comment about how nice my hair is, even though I literally haven't done anything with it.
And become a YouTube member. It's just like on my channel. It's also only 99p on Kev's channel as well.
It's cheaper than a can of piss.
Literally cheaper than a can of piss.
Yeah.
Our audience, as always, reflects the electoral picture across the nation. Welcome to Question Time on BBC iPlayer and Sounds. From the government is Lucy Powell. She's a Manchester MP and leader of the House of Commons. That means she organises government business there and also sits in Keir Starmer's cabinet. From the Conservatives, David Davis was Secretary of State and Chief Negotiator for exiting the European Union under...
Who you may remember turned up to negotiate with a pen and paper.
There's an incredible photo of him across the desk from Donald Tusk, and Donald Tusk has got like this gigantic folder, this lever arch file full of negotiating information, and David's just like, so what is the European Union?
Yeah, so you say customs union. I don't like union. Is that like a trade union? Is that like, can we destroy it? Can I turn the video up? You don't need it turned up, do you? No justice.
Yeah, sorry, you cut out there a sec.
You don't need the video turned up, do you?
Or I turned on to medium quality, probably best. Although
the volume.
The volume seems fine to me. But if you put the quality on medium, just in case, because it sometimes skips on.
Okay.
Under Theresa May. He's been an MP since 1987 and ran David Cameron close for the leadership of the party nearly 20 years ago. Dale Vince is the owner and founder of the green energy company Ecotricity. True to form, he's also the chairman of the world's first...
And his barber hates him. What the fuck? He's got the hair... What's that guy from... Oh, fuck's sake. Fifth Element? The guy with the plastic bit thing over his face?
Yeah, it literally is fucking Gary Thingy.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Gary Oldman?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Zorg, that's the one.
Zorg. He's literally Zorg posting right now. Love it.
Carbon neutral football team, Forest Green Rovers, who play just down the road this weekend. He's donated to the Greens, to Just Stop Oil, and most recently, the Labour Party. And also, way back in the 1980s, Matthew Parris.
Oh,
spent 7
wow,
years
he's
as a
old.
Conservative MP before a varied and successful career in journalism. He's written countless political books, presents on Radio 4, and writes in the Times and Spectator. This week, he called President Trump a slob, a cheat, a very dangerous politician indeed.
Don't be pulled in by that chat, okay? Just because he's flashing a bit of thigh, don't be tempted. He's an evil person. Just because he's realised that Trump's a cunt, that doesn't mean anything, okay? Just saying.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point, and by Gengar Who in chat. I love that haircut. You can never tell if you're looking at a queer or a fascist.
Almost certainly both. Lest we forget.
What, Nick Fuentes?
Yeah. On the point of queers and fascists, I've been reading, because I'm a fucking geek, like some old books about Nazis. So stuff that came out just after the war, and from people who like lived through it. And there was a guy called William L. Shirer, who's an American, or was, he's dead now, American journalist who lived in Germany during the rise of the Nazis, and he wrote a book called The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. Very interesting book, very interesting kind of anecdotes about, like, you know, having met all of these people and stuff, which is sort of fascinating. And he hates the Nazis, right? But he's also a massive homophobe, and it comes through. Because when he talks about Ernst Röhm, who was a famous gay Nazi, he describes him as like a sexual degenerate and a pervert and stuff. Like, it's such old school writing. I love it. He talks about it being like unnatural sexualities and stuff. It's so 50s. It's beautiful. It was still
like a riot to read.
It was a mental disorder. So technically, medically speaking, he wasn't incorrect at the time.
Well, at least you can call in like sick to work with gay.
I'm sure they did. I'm sure that definitely happened and wasn't like something they hid with military precision. Oh.
Good evening. Welcome to our panellists. Welcome to our audience here in Stockport. Very nice to see you. And of course, welcome to you at home. You can join in the conversation on social media, or, you know, you can just sit back and watch. Up to you. Let's take our first question, which is from Nick Hursthouse.
What steps should we take to prevent tragedies like the Southport attack from happening again?
Well, we have been listening, I'm sure.
I'm not sure there's anything you can do, is there?
Well, yeah, like, how are you supposed to control for some, like, mental person, like, not like, you know, that word has connotations, but, you know, somebody who's just totally, like, internally broken as a human being, just becoming obsessed with killing and reading a bunch of different, like, manifestos, completely non-ideological, wasn't doing it for it wasn't terrorism, he just wanted to kill people a lot. Like, you can't control for these things.
Yeah, and they'll did you see Nigel Farage's comment on this?
No.
Yeah, he released a statement on this, obviously, because they're going to try and make play out of this, because it's a black person and a Muslimic.
He's Christian parents, wasn't he?
Oh, well, they're trying to say he was Muslim or whatever. I don't fucking know. Whether he was radicalised by whatever. Whatever. The truth is irrelevant in the modern world. We are post-truth at this point. But anyway.
True, because, yeah, I mean, what they're trying to do is they're trying to take the fact that one of the many pieces of literature that he had was like Al-Qaeda training documents, but then like, and he also had like a Mein Kampf and shit like that. So it was just broad.
Well, on the point of ideological nonsense, did you see the black shooter in America that was radicalized by Nick Fuentes?
Trying to be radicalized against blacks and queers and also Jews. Very strange.
Like, do you think Nick Fuentes is your friend, mate? I mean, I know he's you know, he likes men, so there's that. But like, I don't think he likes your type of men. He likes Destiny, and I don't mean fate. There, I mean he literally had his dick sucked by Destiny.
Oh, that's a good that's a really good point from Ben in chat. Like, if you can't really control for people just having a mental break and becoming obsessed with death and killing and then killing people.
Yeah.
But what you can do is have well-funded public services and child protective services and mental health care and quick detection services for people who might be a threat or might be vulnerable to radicalization, and having them funded by the state rather than having them stripped away through austerity.
Yeah. So, yeah, you can't realistically stop this. Then, like, again, as with the Pakistani grooming gangs, if all you're focusing on is the brown people doing it and not the fact that it's happening at all, that tells me a lot more about you than it does about the problem that's being mentioned.
Yep.
I speak for everyone. Listening with horror to what has been said in court today at the hearing deciding the sentencing of Axel Rudakubana, I just wanted to say the name of the girls. So I thought that was important. So that's Elsie Stancombe, who was 7, Alice da Silva Aguiar, who was 9, and B.B. King, who was just 6. Let's not forget them in this whole conversation. So what steps can we take to prevent tragedies like the Southport attack from happening again? Lucy, how do you find someone like Axel Rudakubana? How do you stop him before he takes action like he did?
Well, I'm really glad you mentioned the girls' names, because I think that's the most important thing for us to remember on a day like today, that those 3 young girls innocently attending a dance class that all our daughters could have been attending, brutally and horrifically murdered by somebody who had planned it and intended to do it and had researched it, and all of the horrific things that we have heard about since. It doesn't bear thinking about for any one of us, really. And our hearts go to the families of those affected. And I don't think words, on a day like today, I just don't think words can really describe how horrific that is. And we all absolutely share the pain and the anger wanting answers. And absolutely, the families need answers.
So here we had Rudakubana. Let's just summarise here.
It's don't get me wrong, it's worse when they just lie, obviously, but there's something more horrific about seeing the soulless robots of politicians during times when they have to try and pretend to be human. Like during when Keir Starmer has to come out and say the terrible terrorist attack that happened and blah blah blah, and like pretend to be a human with emotions. You just think, you soulless ghouls. There's no human left in you, is there?
Well, that's the thing, right? It's all very oh dearism, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, like Adam Kurtz had a field day with this stuff of politicians going, well, isn't it sad how these things happened? And it's sad, and don't you want to know how sad we are? And we're very sad about it, rather than discussing any of the material conditions that led to this point.
Yeah.
Because there was a number of times where he came to people's attention. He was expelled from school. He went in with a knife. He then went back and tried to hit another pupil with a hockey stick. He was brought to the attention of Prevent, which is a government or is set up by the government to try and establish, who is likely to commit a terrorist act and to stop them. The police went to his house 5 times, I think.
know.
So, but nonetheless, he still did it. How can it be prevented from happening? What could have happened to stop it, if anything?
Well, I mean, as you say, I think that pain and anger is all the more painful and deep at the thought that it could have been prevented. And were there steps that could have been taken more strongly or more effectively
I mean,
in those
Matthew's
instances?
shaking his head, but do you think there were steps that could have...
I think that, well, clearly, I think there probably were, and that's why we've got this public inquiry to get those answers. And we're also had a review already of Prevent, and some of the findings of that will be published now the sentencing has happened. And I think you're right to say, someone doesn't become that vile and evil with that intent and having done that overnight. It's something that happens to somebody over a long period of time. And there were many occasions where that was flagged. Was it flagged high up enough? Were the dots joined enough? Was there the right analysis about his intentions and all of that, and making sure that that doesn't happen again. Why could he buy knives so easily online? There are a whole range of questions. Post-COVID, particularly somebody out of the school system who then seemingly sort of disappears, and we're taking measures to do that. So the government is, and of course most of this happened long before we were in government, but the government is absolutely committed to making sure that not only are answers provided, but that any change that is necessary into our systems and how things work, any change that is necessary, we will make and we will bring forward.
So Matthew, when asked this, is there any way...
No, there's no way we can stop things like this happening. They have happened before, they've always happened before, and they will happen again. And I'm in the position of making a slightly more robust defence of the way the government handled this than Lucy, the government's representative. Yes, he was referred to Prevent, but Prevent, I've looked up what Prevent do. All they can do is invite people to meetings and ask them if they would want counselling. He might not have gone to the meetings, he wouldn't have taken counselling, and he wasn't a terrorist. And Keir Starmer seems sometimes to say things just off the top of his head. And he's been
that's the thing, that's a good point.
The government...
It's a good point to say that Prevent's there to stop terrorism and he wasn't a terrorist.
Yeah.
Like Prevent are there to try and deprogram people from terrorist ideology. Obviously, they do a bad job at that anyway, but even if they, were doing a good job, that still wouldn't have caught somebody who was preoccupied with murder rather than having a political project that they were murdering people to achieve. He wanted to kill people for the sake of killing people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Needs to change the definition of terrorism to include anybody who terrifies other people. Well, I mean, Jack the Ripper was an horrific character, but he was...
Okay, does that mean I can make Noel Edmonds a terrorist?
Yes,
he terrifies me.
He does terrify me. Imagine running into Noel Edmonds in a dark alley. Exactly. Also, is he about to hand to Jack the Ripper? You don't go to hand it to Jack the Ripper, mate.
It's not a terrorist. The Terrorism Act has a very clear definition of terrorism, which is a violence that is racially inspired or inspired by ideology or religion. I think he was not.
Okay. I mean, okay. Would you say gender-based violence is a form of terrorism? Because Jack the Ripper was definitely doing that.
Well, that's why I think that it's for political ends at the end of the day. Like, there is a political project you're trying to achieve through terrorism. That's always going to be the definition as far as I'm concerned. Now, of course, you can do gender-based violence for political reasons. So, for example, you could be able to say that who was the incel shooter?
Oh, Elliot
Rodger.
Elliot Rodgers, yeah.
Yeah, Elliot Rodger would be a terrorist because there was a political bent to what he was doing there. But somebody who, like, just regular rapists, for example, or people who kill their wives, that's not a political project that's being motivated there. It's just violence. It's just misogynist violence, right? Or when Jack the Ripper killed prostitutes because he liked killing them, was he trying to make a political project out of it? I don't think so.
Well, ultimately, we don't know, but yeah.
Sorry, no, whoa, people who worked as prostitutes.
Yes, okay. 150 years before, but yes, the point stands.
None of those things. He may have looked up online for some Al-Qaeda thing. His parents were Christians. He was a crazy butcher, and he was a psychopath. And there will always be such people, and there's a limit to what we can do to stop them.
Okay. Right here. Yeah.
Now, don't be taken in by that one sensible answer, chat. Don't. Matthew Parris is a bad man.
We watched Cross Question the other day with Angela Epstein, and she made a very sensible point about the same issue. And I was just like, prevent this. I was like, wow, what the fuck is going on? And then I watched a clip of the same Cross Question where she tried to defend Elon Musk, and this is the same person who said that Jeremy Corbyn saying Epstein was somehow anti-Semitic, and I'm just like, but you'll defend the Nazi salute guy, okay?
Yeah,
very coherent.
The people that said that Greta Thunberg having an octopus plushie was like genocide are okay with Nazi salutes.
That
'Cause
seems to be
again-
the position that we're in. I mean, I
Yeah,
guess now that like, literally fucking Benjamin Netanyahu of all people is out here defending.
Yeah, Elon Musk can't be a fucking evil fascist because he's friends with me, the world's foremost genocidal fascist. Thanks, mate. Yeah, brilliant. So that's cleared that up.
I think it's fantastic that we're having another inquiry, but we just seem to have so many inquiries. I just want to know when we're going to start seeing more action than reaction in politics.
No, we live in a technocratic quangocracy. That's all there exists, okay? We just have to have a fucking committee, to have a committee, to have a committee. It's just committees all the way down.
Whoa. At some point, you'll have a working group as well.
Oh,
a task
true.
force.
And a task force to find concepts of a plan for some milestones to fix the foundations.
That's, again, because I think it seems completely nonsensical to have an inquiry over this. Totally nonsensical.
Yeah, just what the fuck are you going to learn? What could, in the current climate of the way in which, you know, prevent and all that operate, what could they have done differently that would have stopped this?
Having, I guess, better intervention, but that's a problem with lack of funding and lack of resources.
Yeah, exactly. But that you don't need a committee for that. Just like you don't need a committee to tell you not giving people enough money means that they might not be able to afford to feed themselves or heat their homes. It's really not that complicated.
Yep.
And what action, in terms of specifically acts of Ruda Kubana and the question that's being asked, what could be done
Also,
to prevent
can we stop saying his fucking name? We know from all of the experts you don't say the person's name. Because what certain people want, especially copycat killers, is notoriety. They want the clout. They want to be remembered. And in a world where fame is all that matters, it doesn't matter if you release the best album of the year or whether you kill 20 people, you get headlines.
I mean,
so stop saying their fucking names.
I mean, you only have to look at Luigi Mangione, right? Someone who was explicit in his desire to inspire other people, right?
Yes.
He was explicit in the fact that he was doing something that was representative of a system and an act against that system, right? In the same way that, you know, you doesn't matter what you think about United Healthcare and or the act that he did, he was trying to be to create inspiration, to create the notoriety, just in the same way that the Christchurch shooter was, and literally the New Zealand government to this day refuses to mention the guy's name.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You don't mention their name, you don't show their fucking picture, you blank them, because it doesn't matter. What difference does it matter to the story whether his name's Dave or his name's John? Nothing. Just say, the killer.
Yeah.
He's been convicted. That's it. Boom. Done. The only way to stop a bad guy with a knife is a good guy with a knife. Thank you, Kieran. This is a knife.
That's a spoon.
I see you've played Knifey Spoon before. That is literally Australian culture, okay? People say white people don't have culture. Knifey Spoon.
Something like that. Is there anything that you can see from what you've heard?
I think it's very, very difficult. Do we start monitoring absolutely everybody? You know, that unfortunately there are bad people in this world, but maybe misinformation that's on social media, perhaps, I don't know, some kind of regulation. I think that social media companies need...
Okay, mate, you are undermining your initial point. By saying, I don't know, maybe we do this, maybe we do that, you're making the argument that maybe we should have a committee to study this. You fucking daft bastard.
Need to give more input and, you know, to basically weed out these people that are actually providing the misinformation in the first place, perhaps.
Okay.
Well, that's different, though.
Hang on one second.
That's not about stopping the problem. That's about dealing with the aftermath. The point that he's making there. You know, the reason why we're having this discussion, outside of the fact that there was the act itself, was that it was the kind of touch paper for the riots that we saw earlier on in the year. So trying to deal with the social media problems that arose from it is another question. The question that was asked is, how do we stop that thing happening in the first place? And of course, funding our public realm to ensure that we have all the systems and checks and balances in place to minimize these things happening and to identify them before they do. That is what's important. And that's what we've lost because of George Osborne.
Yes.
Well, everyday speaking, I would like to see more police presence on the streets.
Okay, this person is the Karen meme. She's Karen. Okay. Can I speak to the manager of terrorism, please?
Lots of gangs wandering around the streets, and yet you do not see any police presence whatsoever. Something that you used to see in times gone by, but you don't see anymore. I would like to see that reinforced with funding.
And do you think that
Another
would have made a
George
difference in
Osborne
this
L.
In this case, perhaps not, but it might have made people more aware that people are wondering about the police are ever present in your society and neighbourhood.
case? Okay, a woman then,
Okay, so what one is a police state?
I think
Yes, please. I'd like a police state, please. If that's okay. Thank you.
like knife crime in general is a big thing in the UK. I know that it's just been brought in about the 2 IDs to be able to order things online. But I don't know if anyone, like even when I was younger, we used to have community groups that were government funded. There was something for kids to do. And I just feel like, we all see in our areas just groups of, boys just hanging around, and they've not got anything to do, and they're not going to engage in school. So I don't know, more preventative things from an earlier age and getting them involved in the community is going to be far more effective than just,
excuse me.
finding outlet.
Community? That sounds like some socialism to me.
That's people Marxism.
Absolutely, it's people Marxism. Like nowadays, we don't have community anymore. That's not profitable enough. What we need is to take those things like community centres and youth clubs and libraries and swimming pools, £15 billion of these assets, and sell them to the private sector.
Yes.
What's that? Is that the 3rd L for George Osborne just in this question alone?
Yeah, I think so.
If you want to look at the breakdown of community and society, it all starts with austerity and the stripping away of the public realm. There's no youth centres for the kids to go to, so they end up learning about knives because they're stuck online on the internet learning about Mein Kampf and Al-Qaeda. Well, yeah, of course it is, because everywhere they could go has been sold off to fucking private equity firms from South Korea.
Yeah.
The return of the sausages.
Later down the line that, they're a danger, and then doing something about it.
Okay. David, so next question is, what steps should we take to prevent tragedies like that at Southport from happening again?
Well, before we do, Judge, you quite rightly mentioned the children. The other group I'd mention is the parents. I mean, think of the agony they must be facing today. Now, Keir was wrong when he said this is a new manifestation. As Matthew said, it's been going on. Joe Cox, David Amis, the Finsbury Park...
Whoa. These are all terrorist acts.
Yeah.
These were all terrorist acts based upon a desire to insert political change in Joe Cox because they perceived that there was a group trying to undermine his ultranationalism, and with David Amis because it was blowback from Western foreign policy. These were politically motivated killings. This was not. To try and link these two together is complete nonsense.
Indeed.
Or really, really long time ago, Dunblane. Yeah? Now, we could do something about Dunblane because Dunblane was a gun crime. It was similar. It was children in a school, but it was a gun crime, so we took away the access to guns. We've tried to take away the access to knives, but at the end of the day, we can do something on that, but we can't do everything. How do you deny a psychopath a knife? He can make his own, frankly, if he needs to. So this is much more difficult, and it's much more difficult than conventional terrorism. How do we catch conventional terrorists? Essentially, we do it by finding out when they talk to each other. It's intercepting that. A single killer doesn't talk to anybody. So the only thing I think that one could do is to try to make prevent more effective. Now, in this particular case, there were 3 possibilities along the way, and we see this time and again.
But the reason, just to be clear what you're saying, because the reason, as I understand it, that he didn't meet the prevent criteria is that he didn't subscribe to any particular ideology. In fact, the judge said today, and the judge obviously having listened to all the evidence and seen it all, more evidence than we have seen, he said he must accept no evidence that Rudy Kubana had any terrorist cause. So how would prevent in that case be useful?
He was somebody, I mean, look, he had enough.
So that point you made minutes ago, before he was rambling on with bullshit, Proven point, yeah.
Yep.
The people who actually studied the details of this case, who know all the evidence and weighed it all up and all the rest of it, yeah, he's not a terrorist. He's a murderer and he's going to jail forever, but he's not actually a terrorist. That's why they didn't, charge him with terrorism, because he isn't one.
Nope, just a head case.
Yeah, just a murderer.
Again, we're trying to tease out huge amounts of political kind of capital and talking points out of something incredibly simple. Yeah. Some people just do bad things.
Yeah, he's a bad person who did a bad thing, or an ill person who did a bad thing, whichever way you particularly want to look at it, and he's going to prison for 52 years minimum. Okay.
Thank God.
Move on. Then that's fine. That seems like the justice system worked pretty well, actually.
Yep.
Qaeda manual at home. He had made rice in at home.
Yes, but he looked into all sorts of things. He looked into the IRA. He looked at MI5. He looked at cartoons.
What's wrong with the Inflation Reduction Act? There's nothing wrong with that. That's a good piece of economic legislation, mate. What are you talking about? You're massive fans of the IRA. Doesn't matter. He's not in office. I'm still doing the fucking joke.
He's lampooning Christianity, Judaism, Islam.
And I'm an officer in Prevent, and I don't take any of those on board because the third element in the 2001 Terrorism Act mentions ideology, race, and attacks on race and ideology in the state.
So what do you think? So let's say Prevent do take him on, because the fact is, let's face it. From what we've seen, it is so horrific, and I'm sure every single person here would dearly love to think there was an answer to stopping something like this happening again, but it's clearly complex and difficult. With Prevent, let's say they did accept Rudy Kubar and say, right, you totally meet our criteria. What then should they do? Is it a question of following him everywhere? Is it a question of trying to
there's a reference to the so-called the contest stage, the next stage in the process. But in the final analysis, if somebody's a dangerous psychopath and you can detect that, you end up sectioning them, is what you do.
He's not been... So he's been convicted, but not under the Mental Health Act. So presumably the decision was saying is that you...
Oh, God. He was fucking Shadow Home Secretary. This guy would have become Home Secretary.
Lord, imagine someone... maybe he's not as evil as Philip Bravman, but he's certainly almost as incompetent or worse.
He's awful. What the fuck? God almighty, what an absolute fucking goon.
What's that? The Conservative Party are useless at literally everything.
Literally everything.
A party one on the single desire to win power and in no essence for engaging in the role of governance. I'm shocked.
Yeah. Maybe he could turn up to, Prevent meetings with a pen and a pad of paper and ask them, so what is a terrorism? What is that? How do you pronounce that properly? You know what I mean? He's fucking useless. Although, bizarrely, not the worst Brexit minister. That surely has to go to Dominic Raab, who openly admitted he didn't fully understand the importance of Dover to Britain. One of the busiest ports on earth.
I mean, Dominic Raab is just like absolute like a cavalcade of being terrible at literally everything he's ever tried. He's the same guy who was Deputy Prime Minister who said they didn't believe in the concept of human rights. He was the one who, when he was...
Well, that's because he's not a human, because he's a fucking lizard. Yeah.
He's a lizard, it's true. And he was also, when he was a foreign minister, he was busy on a sun lounger during the evacuation from Afghanistan, of all places, and didn't pick up his fucking phone.
Well,
he
I'm
never
glad
looked at the
about
Good Friday
that.
Agreement. That's another one, Ben. Thank you for pointing that out.
Absolute belter there. Absolute belter. Only the best. Only the best from the Tory party,
True. And he also said to a disabled woman who was retelling stories in a debate in the 2017 election about how she, as a Scottish person, was having to ferry disabled people out of England to Scotland so they could try and get help for disability from the Scottish government because they couldn't get anything from the UK government. Essentially saying that people were fleeing England thinking they were going to die because of cuts to disability. And his response was, well, we can't all have whatever kind of childish wish list we want. He's evil. He is evil.
People... Berlin walling themselves into Scotland to get healthcare. Don't bring up Magic Money Tree at that point. Really, that's not an appropriate response at all. The fuck is wrong with you?
Oh yeah, the man's a fucking genuine sociopath.
Yeah, that's mental. Fucking hell.
We do all right? Matthew's right. We cannot protect everybody all the time from every
But if you
danger.
can't section them because they don't meet the criteria for being mentally ill, but you...
So, okay, so he started off with, let's do them under terrorism. Okay, he's not a terrorist. Okay, well, let's do them under mental health. He wasn't guilty under mental health. Can we introduce a brown people law? Can we do him for being a brown person? Maybe?
You think they potentially could be violent but haven't done anything yet, then what do you do?
We don't have in front of us every detail of what...
Yeah, but just in principle.
No, but the judge did. And he said he's not a terrorist and we're not going to try him as a nutter. He's a capable, grown adult who wasn't a terrorist. How do you stop that? How?
And also, like, at no point at anyone, apart from that lady in the audience, has tried to tease out how he got into this position in the first place.
Yep.
Everyone here on the panel is trying to say, well, how, once they've gotten these inclinations to do evil, how would we get in the position to stop them? Which reasonable questions, reasonable discussion to have. But of course, you know, there is stopping crime and there is also stopping the causes of crime. And, you know, again, things like social isolation, things like lack of opportunity, things like relative poverty are going to contribute to the kind of things that create these people in the first place. Maybe we should solve these things.
Okay, might be the greatest description of David Davis I've ever seen from Al Rakabi in chat. It is David Davis, a useless wet grey noodle vomited from a tapeworm living in the anus of a dead fox squashed by a drunk dogger car fleeing a scene.
Perfect. Love it.
It's like Shakespeare never really died.
True.
He just lived on through that sentence, frankly.
Well, in principle, you have to check whether you think somebody's dangerous. That's the simple.
And if they are, lock them up even if they haven't done anything yet.
No.
Thought crime! Yes! Let's go!
There are a whole range of things that prevent then triggers, right? So you
He wasn't a fucking terrorist, you dumb bastard. We've literally been through this. He wasn't a terrorist, so the program set up to stop terrorists will not actually fucking catch him. You prick. Like, are you actually brain dead? Has your brain literally stopped functioning? Are you just going to start dribbling? What the fuck is wrong with you?
You're implying his brain ever functions to begin with.
He put on a tie. Actually, no, I have no evidence he put that tie on himself. No, you could hear somewhere. His helper did that. His grandson did
but his butler.
Yeah, his butler. One of his butlers, yes. Yeah.
You start that process underway, and at some point somebody will come to... I mean, look, his own father stopped him going to a school. His own father knew something was wrong. The school he'd been expelled from. So, you know, there's that. But there's one other thing.
Okay, yeah, but a troubled child who might do violence at school is not a terrorist. Necessarily. Obviously, they could be a terrorist, but he wasn't. So again, you can try and make him a terrorist in whatever imaginary world you live in. He wasn't one in this one. So what do you do?
I may. And it's this. We have to think very, very hard about the system we have now. I mean, I think it was Basu who actually said, be very wary of defining people as terrorists.
Neil Basu of the Metropolitan Police.
You cheeky cunt. You cheeky fucking prick. You've literally just spent the last fucking 5 minutes desperately trying to shoehorn terrorism into this situation where it doesn't belong, and then go, I'd like to quote somebody here. It's falsely accusing people of terrorism's bad, yeah? Honest, yeah. Fuck off. Fuck right off. And then when you stop fucking off, fuck off further.
When they're psychopaths. One of the problems we have now in the system is that we send violent criminals to prison where they often join Islamist gangs, and it ends up as a recruiting mechanism. So we have to think about all of those mechanisms in the system too.
Should we start Christian gangs? Is that his issue here? I don't know. What about let's just let him join a neo-Nazi gang? I mean, that would be interesting given that he's black, but...
Wait, is there an Islamist recruitment gang problem in our prisons? This is the first I've heard of it.
It might be. I don't know. I don't fucking know. It's David Davis, so who knows?
Mm.
It could be real. It could be a lot of old bollocks. It's
It's hard to tell.
He doesn't know. So how the fuck is anyone else supposed to?
So we cut this off before it gets further.
All right. I'm going to come to you, though. I'll just hear a bit more from the audience. Yes, the man in the middle with you got a dark top on there, yeah.
Thank you. I think it comes down to resourcing, and I think it comes down to identifying the triggers as well. So you mentioned earlier that there'd been a previous history within a school of carrying a knife, an attack on a person at that school, police visiting the address on a number of occasions. They're all triggers that indicate something.
Trigger!
And the proposed children's wellbeing and schools bill that's currently with Parliament, there's elements of that from a safeguarding perspective that is bringing together that multi-agency approach. It can't be done in isolation. It can't just be schools that identify those triggers. It has to be a multi-agency approach, catching those triggers early and putting the right intervention and support in place to tackle it at source.
Absolutely.
That's the best answer we've heard all night.
Who let this thoughtful person with some basic knowledge of the situation in? You do not belong here, sir. Leave.
Get him on the panel.
What we need...
Knock off Delvin.
No, what we want is idiots, please. We'd like idiots to just spout reactionary nonsense. That was a sensible answer. He has no place here.
You mentioned his father and the fact that he had recently, only the week before, tried to stop him. Now, and you mentioned
So shall I just explain, just for those who might be following, basically his Axel Rudikubana tried to get in a taxi, as I understand it, to go to his former school, and there was footage of his father coming out and trying to, and successfully stopping him from doing that.
Yeah, so, I mean, I work for financial services, and we have to report if we suspect money laundering, or we face 14 years in prison. That the child safety bill that went through recently, there was a point in that where you're going to have mandatory reporting.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where we need to go down, and the parents need to take more responsibility. They found stuff in his house where the family lived, so they obviously knew that something was wrong. And I think there has to be more responsibility for the parents in all this.
Obviously we know next to nothing about the parents this day, so...
Okay, the game is finished. 1-1 between Birmingham and Wrexham. So I can now actually focus on this television show.
Can't even beat Wrexham.
Away from home, that's fine. What are you talking about?
Okay, touche.
We're above them by 6 points or something. Leave me alone. They've got Hollywood superpower. Fucking Deadpool. Literally Deadpool owns them.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney? Yeah, anyway.
It's very limited as to what we can say there. Dale?
Yeah, I think the discussion so far has kind of overlooked what I think to a large degree is the root cause, or a big contributing factor, which is social media. I think this guy was radicalized to a considerable extent by content on social media. He got his
too many phones, too much phone.
Social media, his recipe for rice, and he watched violent videos on social media. And Keir Starmer talked this week about the rise of violent content on social.
Did he actually learn these things on social media, or did he not just Google them? Like I don't think I was ever seeing people post about the anarchists' cookbook on Facebook. Like that shit was in there's in the DMs on MSN Messenger.
Yeah.
Back in 2008 or whatever it was, 2007. The idea that the root cause here is that people were just like posting about terrorists or not even terrorists, but violence and killing on Facebook or something. That's where he was radicalized from. I find that difficult to believe.
Yeah, it does seem like this is the kind of boomer answer. It's the phones.
Too much phone.
There was never any terrorism before we had mobile phones.
Social media, and I think one of the biggest things we can do to prevent this happening in the future is to control social media properly, and we don't do that at the moment.
It's true, yeah, and that's a really good point here, Bob, as well. Like
the platform,
because we never had any terrorism whatsoever before social media. Never had any violent murders before social media was there. It may have been, as he's right to point out in chat as well, it's a vector through a medium through which it's happening, but to say that it's a root cause rather than an enabler is nonsense, right?
But okay. Matthew Paris did mention Jack the Ripper. And I'll be honest, I don't think he was on Twitter. Yeah. Oof. But there weren't any. That was just a one-off, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, the IRA were famously organised through TikTok.
Yeah, no, they had a Slack group they used to organise through. Yeah.
One was run by Musk. And Zuckerberg, for example, are promoting extreme content, extreme views. Musk is trying to interfere in our democracy now through his platform X. And of course, the guy got his murder weapon from Jeff Bezos. You look at these three tech giants.
Well, hang on. I don't think you can say he specifically got it from Jeff Bezos. He bought it on Amazon, sure. It wasn't like he was. Jeff Bezos is doing a car boot sale selling knives.
Let's say you're trying to blame Lord Sainsbury if someone pops down to their local branch to pick up a set of kitchen knives.
Yeah, it's a bit much. Especially because, like, most people who buy knives use them to, like, cut food with, usually.
Yeah.
Like, I've got loads of knives. I've got loads of things that could be used to murder people. Except I chop, like, vegetables with them and stuff.
You've been murdering carrots, you heartless bastard.
Honestly, I have murdered so many vegetables. I don't think I'll ever be sin-free because of it. I've just got to hope that when I go up there, God isn't celery. Otherwise, I am fucked.
And we haven't kept pace with social media. It's a supernatural force. It's outside of the boundaries of our nation, but it has a really big impact. And after the event, after the terrible event, Musk stoked the riots with content on social media. We shouldn't allow that. He, in effect, aided and abetted the crimes that took place, and that's where we should go.
To be fair,
Okay, let me take a couple more points then I'll...
if you want to, that is a good point about radicalization on social media. Nothing, Axel Rodakabana wasn't fucking radicalized on these platforms. It wasn't radical. He wasn't radicalized. He wasn't a radical. He was unwell. He was like sick in the head. That's what radicalization is towards an ideology, which is what that's what terrorism is, which he wasn't. But obviously, there was a lot of radicalization happening on Twitter because of Elon's promotion of a lot of this stuff and Farage and all that lot. And they actually did terrorism. They did terrorism in the riots.
Yep.
People tried to burn down a hotel with asylum seekers and hotel workers in it. They attempted to do a mass murder, and the reasons for doing so were explicitly political. They were anti-asylum terrorist attacks. So if you want to talk about actual terrorism, how about we talk about, I think Dale Vince is correct, but that wasn't the question that was asked.
True.
I'll move on. Man there in the blue t-shirt, yeah. Yes, you. You got the microphone over your head.
Hello. Just to follow up on what you were saying about social media, I think there's a lot of emphasis that has to be placed on parents, to be quite honest. We really don't know what the children are doing sometimes. They form their own groups, they form their own friends, and they should be the ones who should identify anything that's a little bit out of order, and they should be able to report it somehow. I don't think the government can be asked to do everything every single time. You can't just do that.
I mean, ultimately, no offence, but we're wasting time with this conversation. Because ultimately, it boils down to sometimes there's not a lot you can do. Now, there are some things you can do to try and help the situation, increased spending in areas that can catch people like this and can improve the general quality of life so that mental health problems don't get exacerbated, etc., etc. But ultimately, sometimes a nutter's going to do something fucked up. It's not nice to admit. It's very scary because it could happen to anyone at any fucking time. You could be walking down the street, some cunt stabs you. It's terrifying. It's out of your control. It's out of everyone's control. It just happens.
I mean, people want to think that we're in control, and really the world is quite entropic, and that's difficult for a lot of normal people, regular people, to try and grasp the idea that just loads of things are outside of everyone's control.
Well, this is where conspiracy theorists, I think, fundamentally come from, is that they can't just accept that, well, maybe I'll just be on a plane and it'll be flown into a building. No, it has to be like some controlled big plan by the government or by the whatever.
World Economic Forum.
Sometimes there's just some cunts that do cunty shit. And you might get caught up in that. Fucked. Yeah, I know. That's
exactly.
Life.
Yeah, this is what is another thing about this conversation specifically is these kind of attacks are happening more rarely nowadays. we get far less mass murder in this country than we used to in, I don't know, like the 60s and 70s. This is something that's been continually...
I haven't looked at the stats on that, but I'm happy to take your word for it. I trust that that's the truth, yeah.
I mean, there was a big drop in violent crime in the 90s and 2000s.
There's certainly a drop generally in violent crime, yes.
Exactly, broadly. And so when it does happen, it becomes a really big talking point because it's in juxtaposition to the relative calm outside of it. So when these things happen, we over-sensationalize them to the point where we're having an entire question about how do we stop these things happening, as if there's anything that we can do, because people are so used to the idea of them not happening. And so them happening, it blows it out of proportion in terms of how far we've come, in terms of having more control as a society over the amount of crime that happens. Because our crime rates are just lower. Like they are way lower than they used to be. I mean, obviously Britain is one example. In America, crime is massively lower than it used to be. Crime was a huge problem, especially in the late 80s, early 90s, and it fell off a cliff during the 90s and never really recovered.
Yeah.
And yet people, the curtain twitchers, they're obsessed with this idea that crime is going to happen, and in reality, it's actually just a lot lower.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Otherwise, we'd have laws and inquiries, and this is something that's happened, as Matthew says. It will happen, it'll happen again, but it's nice to think that it's not as often. And that's where I really think parents should look after the children a little bit more.
Okay. Young man in the glasses, a bit further forward. Young man in the glasses with a white t-shirt, yeah.
Hey, I agree completely with what Dale has said there, but with, you know, people like...
Okay, that's a Harry Potter cosplay situation, is what's happened there.
Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos controlling these social media platforms and Mark Zuckerberg saying that they're going to get rid of fact checkers and filters.
Expelliarmus! Aye.
On social media. How can we as a country and how can our government kind of put our own barriers to social media?
Okay, I'm going to move on. But before I do, let me just come back to you, Matthew, because you are the sort of person on the panel that's saying, look, frankly, you're not going to be able to stop people like this. Are you convinced by anything you've heard?
Yes, some very useful suggestions have been made, especially about social media, and I don't disagree with them. But I simply ask myself, in a population of 60 or 70 million people, how many thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of people are there, out there, who, were they to commit an act of awful butchery, we wouldn't be saying about them, well, the signs were there, they did this when they were young, they did that when they were young. We simply can't monitor all these people, and we can't lock people up until...
Exactly, you can't lock them up because they were an unruly kid.
No.
Like, that's ridiculous.
Will they do something?
Stop being sensible, Matthew Pearce. Say something horrible. I promised people a cunt, and you are not fulfilling that brief at all, sir.
Other point.
Yeah, very briefly, because I want to move on.
We spent a long time...
I'll come back. Really brief, do. And then
long time on online safety last time.
Hang on, I can't let you all back in.
But still, after that, we have online an Al-Qaeda manual, somehow.
Somehow.
I think it was some kind of academic study of an Al-Qaeda manual, but, you know, frankly, that's a nicety. Very briefly, Lucy.
But look, I think...
Yeah, you can find anything. It's the internet. You can find literally anything. Anything.
Osama bin Laden's letter to the United States was published on the fucking Observer.
Yeah.
Like, there's plenty of stuff that you can find.
Yeah, exactly. Like, trust me, you can find tractor porn.
You can
all
also
sorts.
Topical. If you want to find Anders Breivik's mass murdering terrorist manifesto, where he murdered loads of children as well, but you know, he's a terrorist. He's white, but he's a terrorist. You can find that manifesto online, and you can look at the bibliography. Not that it has one, but you can look at the references that he makes, and he makes references to Matthew Paris's colleague at the Times, Melanie Phillips.
Yeah,
that's an interesting fact.
True.
Just putting it out there for you.
And I know that because I've read his manifesto, and I tell you why I did that. I was attacked by loads of right-wing people because do you remember Black Pigeon Speaks?
Oh my god!
Yeah, he came
after.
He came after me, a piece of shit. Anyway, so I had to shut my channel down for a bit, like to stop all the fucking mass flagging. And then when I came back, I did a live stream which was called Anders Behring Breivik, or right-wing YouTuber. And I read out specifically quotes either from his manifesto or from like Black Pigeon Speaks or Sargon of Akkad or whoever. And the audience had to guess, was it from his manifesto or was it a right-wing YouTuber?
I mean, you probably could do that with Melanie Phillips as well, to be
Oh,
honest.
God, yeah. Absolutely you could, yeah. Because they're fucking evil, yeah.
Yeah.
They're really, really genuinely bad, violent, nasty people. Yeah. It's just that Melanie Phillips gets the IDF to kill innocent people, whereas Breivik did it himself. You know. That's literally the difference.
We do have to take measures, whether they be preventative, so making it harder for people to buy knives, making it harder for people to access material on the internet, on social media and sharing that and so on, whether it's interventionist, multi-agency approach, seeing those flags, what steps we put in place, knowing where children are when they're supposed to be at school.
Sure,
and
no,
they're
you
not,
made that point, yeah.
and all of those
Yeah,
things.
you're
So
just repeating
there-
yourself.
Of course, there are
Shut
many
up.
things that happen that
Yeah.
our security services prevent, schools and others prevent from happening every single day. Horrors that could happen. I hear about some of them now. I'm in government, but we do have to find.
And that's a good
answers.
point,
We
actually.
do have to.
Oh.
I will give
look
her.
and
I'll give her
make
some
sure that
slack.
We are taking.
I think it's a good point to say that, you know, well, we hear about this one person who slipped through the net, but do we hear about all of the people that
Yeah.
were going to do bad things and were stopped, right?
Yeah.
That's something that never comes up, and we don't look at the ratios of the successes to the failures, and we concentrate. Like, there was like, when I do good, no one notices, and when I do bad, no one forgets, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's reasonable to say that there probably are quite a lot of people that get stopped. Remember there were the people who tried to. Oh, there was a plot to kill. Who was the person who did the Jack White cover?
No idea.
She was like a soul singer. What the fuck was her name? I can't remember. There was a plot to kill her somehow. That was stopped by by our anti-terror police. And there was a plot to kill an MP, which involved someone from a BNP youth video.
Oh wow. Okay.
Jack something or other. I forget what it was. Joss Stone. Thank you, Jock.
Joss Stone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a plot to kill Joss Stone for some reason. That was foiled by the police.
Isn't Joss Stone white? Why would the BNP try and kill her?
I honestly, I do not know any of the motivations for this.
Fair enough.
But there was apparently, I think.
Well, you get like, well, more recently the Taylor Swift concert in Vienna that Al Qaeda were gonna fucking do over in some way. I don't know. And it got cancelled anyway because they caught the fucking thing. You know, they stopped it just as before it was going to happen. And you think there's probably loads of shit like that they stop before it ever gets to that stage, right?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, the white nationalist was called Jack Renshaw, and he tried to kill Labour.
Yeah.
There's a plot to kill Labour MP Rosie Cooper.
Okay, interesting.
And also, apparently, one of the guys from Curzon Massive was a potential terrorist.
Wow. And Ronnie Pickering joined ISIS. It's not true. Apologies to Ronnie Pickering. Who are you? Ronnie Pickering!
Every possible step across the range of those things.
All right,
Could I just say, sorry, how do we control the tech giants and social media? Make them responsible for their content.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey. All right. Unsurprisingly, lots of you obviously asked about the horrors of the Southport attack. Lots of you asked about in this next question as well, which will become clear in a moment. Before I go to our question, let me just tell you that next week we are in Melton Mowbray in Leicestershire, and the week after that we head to Glasgow. So if you'd like to come and be part of the audience in either of those two places, you live in them or around them, go to the Question Time website, follow the instructions there, and hopefully I shall see you in the audience. Okay, let's take our next question now from Mark Doherty. Yeah.
Did God save Donald Trump to save the world?
What the fuck is that question?
I
What
know,
the
very
fuck
silly.
is wrong with you? Like, I know, like you can bring, you just, what's the point in even asking a question at that point? Just go, Donald Trump. And then they can just talk about Donald Trump. Because that question was fucking dumb.
I mean, okay, the BBC would have. She said, well, loads of people asked about this question, and the BBC fucking researchers chose this one as the one they were going to be asked by the audience.
Yeah. Fucking hell, this is embarrassing. The BBC are dog shit, man.
Lots of questions about this. So, yes, if you remember, Donald Trump said, God saved my life for a reason, to make America great again. And he said also that he thought he could make the world great again as well. David?
I don't think God's taking advice from Donald Trump. No, God didn't save him, but the bad marksmanship saved him in terms of the rifleman. But Trump's an interesting character. I mean, if I were an American, I would have had to spoil my ballot paper last time around. I would be a Republican, but I wouldn't be a Trump Republican. But Trump...
Interesting that in Britain you're not a Republican, though, are you? Cunt.
Trump's an interesting character because for all the things we think he's crude and coarse, as he is, and he's a bully, as he is, on the one hand, would we have got to the situation in Israel without him?
Well, it does have to, I do have to say, it's early days, and I don't expect that he'll be good in the long run, but literally so far in the, few days that he's been president, he's done more to try and rein in Israel than Joe Biden did in 2 years.
Well, I mean, it's been some push and pull, right? So whilst he was the one who sent Stephen Witkoff to go and get the ceasefire and essentially told Netanyahu to put up and shut up, he then also removed sanctions against settlers in the West Bank who've immediately gone on like anti-Palestinian pogroms, burning down olive trees. So
it's not great, but like he literally not forced them, but he set a deadline for them to get out of South Lebanon as well. Like, okay, that's still more than Biden did.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, literally, you could have probably picked there were loads of people you could have picked, either than Trump or Biden, who would have been better on this.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. They're both. Let me just. What's the technical term for it? Cunt waffle. They're both cunt waffle. But
massive twats.
Absolute pricks. Yes. But yeah, it's just like Joe Biden should be remembered as a fucking shithouse of a president.
I mean, it will be his thing. Is I have you people who watch my channel will know I have not heaped praise, but I've given him plenty of praise for his domestic policy programs. I think it been better targeted, and they were poorly designed electorally. And a lot of those failures are failures of Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema rather than the actual legislation itself. And all of that domestic agenda, all of the increase in unionization, all of the good work done by Lena Khan and the FTC, all of that tiny footnote on the fucking genocide.
Yeah,
I even went up to during the run up to the election, and I was just like, I can't tell you, even of all the good things I've said about their domestic policy, their macro policy, I've said loads of good things, and I can't endorse them because all that matters is the genocide at this point. Because how do you come back from that?
Yeah,
how do you come back from it? You just can't.
We have a chance of stopping the Ukraine war and the mass killings there without him. I'm not so sure.
Well, true, but like he did literally say, "Give me 1 day, I'll have a peace deal in 1 day." Let me just check. It's been more than 1 day. Donald, where's that peace deal, mate? Do you promise us in just 1 day you'd have a peace deal in Ukraine? Donald, prick.
Sure. So I have to be a bit careful in my thought process about what I think of Donald Trump. I don't like him, but I have to think, what's his impact on the world, because he is the most influential person in the world. So I don't think God intervened, but I think we have to consider the consequences.
And do you think his term in office will be a positive one overall?
Probably not, but as I say, it's really difficult. Who could have done those things? I mean,
Joe Biden.
Frankly,
Joe Biden could have done those things by trying. Just by doing something would have been better than the nothing he did.
Literally any president to the left of Joe Biden could have done more. You'd have thought that anybody who was leftward, especially on the issue of Zionism, would have done more than Joe Biden to stop this at any point. But no, he's so fundamentally committed to the project of Zionism that it didn't cross his mind that he didn't just do what Netanyahu told him to do.
Yeah.
Like apparently in the background, despite Kamala Harris being not wanting to say anything about diverting from the Biden platform, when she was announced that she was likely to be the successor, people were speaking to The Guardian internally from the State Department saying, well, she doesn't like Netanyahu and she would be more likely to twist his arm than Joe Biden. You could have had fucking a non-entity like Kamala Harris in government, and she would have done more than Joe Biden. And of course, Joe Biden is only president because he beat Bernie Sanders in the primary. Do you think this would have been allowed to fucking happen if Bernie Sanders was president of the United States? Like, fuck with it.
Even his attitude, I mean, I'm a free trader. A complete dyed in the wool. You know, I was around with Gladstone.
Yeah, you're a wanker, yeah, we know. Yeah, we were
A free trader who was pro-Brexit. That seems like a bit of a...
I'm a free trader who wanted to put up barriers to trade. Genius.
Seems a bit contradictory.
Yeah.
You know, I was a free trader. But even his view on tariffs...
When he says he was around with Gladstone, he means he's literally old enough. He was literally around with Gladstone. For those who don't know, Gladstone was Prime Minister in the 19th century.
in dealing with China. So it's
China.
difficult to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dale.
Yeah, I think in that case, David, you're not a free trader if you think we have to do something about Chinese trade, because it always seems to me that America is for free trade while America dominates trade, and as soon as that changes, then they want other rules. Did God save Donald Trump? Is that the question I really...
Well, did God save Donald Trump to save the world? To save the world. It's basically, do you think Donald Trump's going to be a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, that's the general gist of it, I think it's fair to say.
You know, I think he'll be an entertaining president. He was the first time round. I think he's gone he's doubled down on himself this time round. He wants to subsume Canada. He wants to own Greenland. He wants the Panama Canal back. And he's threatening a trade war with everybody. He hasn't solved the Ukrainian war.
And not only that, one of the first things he did, you know, because the whole thing was, oh, we're going to reduce prices for stuff. One of the first things he did was get rid of one of the few good things that Joe Biden did, which was to limit the price for insulin. So now
it's so funny to me.
Now diabetics can just pay through the fucking nose to stay alive.
I mean, this is the thing, right, is that we always keep thinking about Donald Trump as representative of the white working class, when, in fact, the vast majority of his supporter base are, like, small business tyrants, basically, are petite bourgeois people. Yeah. And so these are ones who can afford to fly up to the Capitol to do an insurrection in their, you know, on a whim. When, Exactly, when most people would have been at work, and it shows you, because of the attitude to this kind of legislation, that he does represent that demographic, the kind of people who don't have to care about these drug prices because they have got high quality insurance from their high paid jobs, for example, or they're rich enough from being a business owner to afford good quality insurance. But they're also mad about Big Pharma. But they're not mad about Big Pharma in the way that they should be, which is Big Pharma is price gouging the citizens of America for private profit because that's what the market does and they can afford it. This because they think that Big Pharma are trying to put 5G in the vaccine to do the New World Order Great Reset. So it's just dumb. They're dumb idiots who have too much money and no problems.
Yeah. And they're happy to even with the caveat of them being like anti-vax lunatics. They're supporting Donald Trump, who took credit for the vaccine, and was paid for by Elon Musk, who literally wants to put a chip in your brain.
Exactly. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. And like the fact that these people are going mad about Big Pharma, right? Gavin fucking Newsom did more to curtail Big Pharma in America than fucking any Republican. It's Gavin Newsom. Fucking Gavin Gruesome out here by having state funding for a publicly owned insulin manufacturer.
True, but he's paid for that.
Big Pharma.
He's paid for that though by the burning of homeless people for energy. So he's just going to pay for it by killing homeless people because California, it's so left wing.
Issue yet, David. I don't think that he will actually, and I don't think he's a single cause for the ceasefire in Gaza either. Joe Biden claims a lot of credit for that as well. But America is arming Israel and is actually behind the genocide that's taken place in Palestine. So I don't think we can give any credit to any American president for a ceasefire in Gaza, actually. I think Donald Trump will try to resist the tide of renewable energy and the green economy, and I think he'll fail like King Canute. He talks drill, baby, drill, which is, you know, he's talking a good game. He's like a talk, baby, talk president, because in his last term, he issued less licenses of oil and gas drilling than Joe Biden did in his last term. Joe Biden issued 50% more licenses, so Joe Biden was more about oil and gas than Donald Trump. I think
you've also been very critical. I mean, you've mentioned it already, but you've gone on record of being very critical of the tech bros, for want of another way of saying it. You know, Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Musk.
Oh God, I heard a Democratic senator refer to the Broligarchs.
That was Chris Murphy, right, on Teo?
No. This was a woman. I forget who. Was it Klobuchar possibly?
Oh, it was Amy Klobuchar.
Yeah. And I just thought, oh, just fucking kill me. I can't be bothered.
Oh, again, they're only bad oligarchs because they are masculine coded or whatever.
Yeah.
And whilst I think that masculine coding is kind of cringe, can we actually just kind of put these things purely in economic terms so we don't alienate people? If that's a good, might just please, maybe just one time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Mad Cat's applied to go to the Glasgow show, which would be fucking dope.
Hey, that would be absolutely dope. It's interesting as well, going back to the point that he made about how no leader in America can be given any credence for ending the genocide through a ceasefire agreement. Like, if you really want to do anything about that, if you really want to give anybody some credit, maybe like the Egyptian and Qatari negotiators that helped facilitate it.
No, they're bad. Because they're basically Hamas.
Well, like the Jordanian Prime Minister, like the Arab League meeting, literally
You mean the
taking
Hamas
television
Prime Minister?
Yeah, going at the television press conference, they did going, we have a ceasefire ready. We're ready for peace. The question is Netanyahu ready? Because obviously it was obvious for everyone that the Netanyahu was the one who was a barrier to a ceasefire.
Yep.
In terms of their influence.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, those three people sat behind him at his inauguration. They own more money than half of the entire population of America between them. Their wealth went up. In between the election and the inauguration, their wealth went up by $200 billion. So there's clearly a big business interest for them in supporting Donald Trump. Zuckerberg has taken moderation off Facebook. Somebody said that from the audience.
I mean, what you said, the wealthiest, I mean, talking about them, I'm assuming, the wealthiest are bankrolling politics and media, gobbling up democracy as they go.
And on top
you're
of that,
concerned clearly by their influence on Trump. I mean, I just want to give that you are also a political
worth
donor.
pointing out too that part of the desire, I think we don't talk about this enough, right? People talk about Elon Musk and his far right leanings on like culture war stuff, and that's really bad. I agree that it's bad, and people think about his own personal incentive and wanting to have more subsidies for like Tesla and SpaceX and government money being handed to him through subsidy. Also bad. I really don't think that people have properly scrutinized, in as much as we should be doing, the fact that the whole point of Doge as a governmental department, I know I can't believe I have to call a fucking meme, but the Department of Government Efficiency, the whole point of the department is to do fucking shock therapy.
Yeah.
They're doing shock. They want to fucking privatize the post office. They want to slash every amount of public provision. And and you think that the man who has got, the CEOs of Alphabet and of Amazon and of Tesla and of TikTok behind him at his inauguration, do you think he's going to be selling these to people who have the interests of the public at heart? No, he's selling it to people who were using it for political capital on the cheap. This is literally what happened in Russia after the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Indeed, yeah. As to Dale Vince's point there about them taking moderation away from Facebook, this reminds me, and again, I'm making this a very deliberate comparison, but this in Nazi Germany, they had what was called working towards the Führer, which was essentially a self-controlled process whereby you didn't have to have direct diktat from Berlin about how to act and behave. It's that everyone was assumed to be working towards the will of Hitler or Trump in this case. This is how fascism essentially tends to operate, in order to make sure that you don't get on the wrong side of an authoritarian who can enact violence or financial capricious manipulation of the market against you and all that sort of stuff. And so it becomes a self-perpetuating, self-radicalizing process whereby you start to essentially act in a way that he would want you to act, even if you're not being directly dictated to.
100%. And we've also got to reckon with the idea that, well, obviously, the basis for fascist ideology and for fascist statecraft is that of class collaborationism, right?
Yeah.
Similar to liberalism in that regard, but instead of around a project of civic nationalism, it's about racial nationalism or theocratic nationalism. And so what they are trying to do by having all of these oligarchs and the government intertwined is to make them part of the same national project so you forget that these people are the enemy. If you can subsume both the CEOs and the working class under the banner of Christian nationalism or American nationalism or white nationalism, they obviously forget about the material conflicts between the bourgeois and the proletariat, between the workers and owners, between the people and the elites, which is why, of course, they have to invent a fictional tribe of elites. That's where cultural Bolshevism comes from. Well, the actual elites aren't the rich people. It's people who are trying to undermine the national project, the ethno-nationalist project. And so you point towards, Jewish academics or bankers or whatever it is, or the university professors. And that's how you end up with the Institute for Sexual Wissenschaft being burnt down. And that's what Matt Walsh wants to happen. So that's what he's going to get.
You've donated to Labour, you've donated to the Greens and Lib Dems as well. And Just Stop Oil. I mean, surely on a slightly smaller scale, but you're doing the same as them, aren't you?
except I don't seek influence. I mean, what's happening right now is that...
So when you give money to parties... I mean, some people might...
No, I know. That's
struggle to believe that when a businessman gives money to a party, he's thinking, don't want anything back for it.
No, but actually, yes.
Well, hang on a minute.
And this is the problem with...
Why is this just now being treated as if it's obvious? For years, for fucking decades in this country, we just accepted as rote, nationally, that people gave money to political parties out of the goodness of their hearts. Obviously, that was always bollocks. We knew it was bollocks. The people knew it was bollocks. But there was at least the pretense on our media that there was not going to be backhanders or influence being gained through that donation. And now she's here going, well, nobody expects you to get an influence from... Or nobody expects you not to try and get influence from your donation. I was like, but you said we were being fucking anti-Semitic conspiracy theorists when we said this in 2017.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Can we just ask? Yeah, what are AIPAC then? Are they not? They're doing it out of the goodness of their heart too, I imagine. Yeah, when they donate to all those people.
Massot, people like that.
Intriguing. Or is it only when there's a vaguely progressive guy donating that there needs to be questioned?
Yeah, like Frank Hester. To the Conservative Party, like Quadrature Capital, that got no coverage at all.
At all? Was it 4 million donated?
Well, it was 4 million. It's 4 million, and it's not like there's like potential backhanders. It's not like that there theoretically could be some level of influence. We know already they have already gained direct influence. As somebody from the board of Quadrature Capital got put on their fucking climate council by the government.
Yep.
They were given a direct position in one of their million quangos as fucking a quid pro quo for the millions of pounds of money they received.
Did you say they're also watering down the non-dumb stuff as well? How are they going to pay for anything, considering that was the only thing they were going to raise?
It's insane. It's obvious. It honestly is so frustrating. Again, because literally we spent the whole time when we were explicitly calling this out during the Corbyn years as being conspiracy theorists, when it's just obvious material reality.
Yeah. Hello, Sister Rose. Everyone go and follow Sister Rose, otherwise I will be annoyed.
With our politics, we've decided that we don't want publicly funded elections, and so instead we have donations that fund parties and elections. But we don't like that system because we suspect that people give money in return for influence. A lot of people don't give money in return for influence, they just give money because they want to see a party win. That's where I'm at. And I think we should have publicly funded elections. It would cost a time.
So you want the Lib Dems, the Labour Party and the Greens to win? Okay. I guess. I don't know.
I don't think we should have publicly funded elections. I don't think people want huge amounts of public money going towards people who are trying to use it for their own material gain rather than broadly for everybody in the country, focusing on their ideological project. I think people should crowdfund for these things, but I think that we should be doing this through memberships. We should be doing this through regular people donating. But the way you fix this is not by publicly funding them, and it's not by having the system we had before where anyone can donate. It's by having a cap on yearly donations to political parties. Just have the amount you can donate capped.
Yep.
It's as simple as that. Then you have people funding it directly. It's proportional to the amount of support that they have, so it's relevant rather than, the Heritage Party or Workers' Party GB getting the same funding as the Labour Party, which, despite what you feel about those parties, obviously I feel pretty negative towards both of them, but regardless, they're my audience, some people like Workers' Party GB, they shouldn't be getting the same funding as a massive political party. Like, why would they do that? You can at least have it proportional, but you want to get oligarchs out of politics, and you do that by limiting the value of donations.
Literally. Literally. Thank you, Over the Historian, for gifting a sub to Sister Rose. Much love. Don't forget, everybody, you can give generously and sexily, because it will make you hotter if you donate to either me or No Justice. In the form of memberships, bits messages. I'm still on YouTube, so you can do memberships and super chats and stuff here if you want to as well.
152 people watching on Twitch, and I see some theoretical grey names in chat. Where are the gifters at to try and make sure that people can get access to all of the wonderful benefits of being a subscriber, such as my static and animated emotes in chat?
Let's go.
Any sum of money. At the last election, it would have cost £20 million per year over a 5-year cycle, would fund our elections completely without donations, and I would advocate that.
Let's hear a bit from our audience. The man right at the back here.
Me? Yes. Can I take issue with you over you saying that genocide has been caused in Israel?
Oh, here we
How
go.
dare you say that?
In Palestine,
Palestine.
saying,
How dare you say that? Genocide happened to 6 million Jews in the second.
And never again in any other situation. You can only use that word for the genocide that I support, or
It's
support
worth
the
pointing out. I
description
think
of.
the only official genocide that's happened since was Bosnia, and Bosnia was just like thousands of people. Like, more people have died in Palestine at the hands of the IOF than died in the Bosnian genocide, because the official definition was just Srebrenica, rather than the entirety of the conflicts in the Balkans. Right? Like, it was that one specific city, and so if something happened outside of there, it technically wasn't part of the Bosnian genocide. But that's like the single actual named genocide that's been prosecuted on those grounds.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that other genocides have happened, and it's obvious that they have, like in Rwanda and in, I guess technically not in Cambodia. It's called the Cambodian genocide pretty frequently, but it wasn't actually a genocide because they didn't target a specific ethnic group. They just targeted everyone.
Yeah, that's just slaughter, rather than specifically genocide.
I've seen someone to call it dystopicide before, which I think is a good name.
Well, yeah, basically. Omnicide?
War. Where is the equivalence? Did you mention the atrocity that happened on the 7th of October when Hamas?
No, because it's not really relevant anymore.
Nope. I was really, I saw some of the scenes, and I was obviously, you've heard me plenty of times condom hummus on this channel. Plenty of times I've done the condoming of the hummus on here. At this point, literally do not care, don't give a shit, zero. I just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
Just don't care. It's old news. The genocide has happened now. Like there was bad. I have sympathy for people who were victims of it, but you end the occupation, you'll stop getting blowback. Like, simple as that. Simple.
Yeah.
Also, thank you, Zakat, for the Raider 37. Welcome in. Through the No Justice stream, we talk about UK politics from a socialist perspective. If you'd like to drop a follow for that kind of stuff, we stream 6 days a week. Please hope you do. I'm here with Kevin Logan, other socialist, also from the UK, who also streams very frequently,
Well,
at least 5 days a
they
week.
know, because Zakat was raided into me yesterday.
Well, there you go.
God
Please
bless.
drop Kevin a follow. And if you're watching on my chat, please go and follow Zakat, Australian communist educational Twitch streamer. Streams incredibly long and incredibly frequently. So
I wouldn't have led with
recommend you give it a watch.
Australian. I wouldn't have led with Australian as a descriptor. Just, you don't want to put people off, do you?
And the Palestinians invaded Israel and killed innocent women, children. They've bayoneted.
Yes, we know. They play titty football. We know. Come on. Get out. I mean, what the fuck? You're a lunatic, mate. They bayoneted babies. They cooked them and ate them. They're fucking Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter.
I mean, what he mentioned makes a very good point, actually. He makes a very good point. Going into other people's lands and killing them on grounds of ethnicity, it's really bad, isn't it? It's really bad when people do that. I really hope no one else has done anything like that any time recently at all.
Children, do you understand that? How dare you say that? You're ill-informed, my friend.
Okay. I'm aware of the atrocity of 7th of October. 1,500 Israelis lost their lives. Since then,
What do you think about that?
the brutalization of Palestine, of all of the people in Palestine, has taken 150,000 lives and injuries.
Is Israel allowed to defend its borders?
Of course it is.
No. No, unfortunately, actually, occupiers do not have a right to defend themselves. Welcome to international law.
She has a right to defend herself. She's a beautiful lady. Lady Israel. Sorry, I've got Keith invaded my body then. Apologies.
You're making a point very strongly and passionately.
How would they do that? By not killing hundreds of thousands of people and purposely bombing the north of Gaza so that they can reoccupy it? Crazy, I know.
What reoccupying the north of Gaza? Imagine such a thing. Imagine that was a plan all along. That's why they ethnically cleansed it deliberately.
Crazy.
And then paved a road down the centre of Gaza so it was split off from everywhere else as a massive checkpoint that didn't let people past. Nothing
We must let him answer as well.
So let me speak. 90% of the Palestinian population have been displaced. There's been famine, all kinds of problems. Before the war, Palestinians were a captive population with no control, no access to the outside world through ports and airports and stuff like that. But we're talking, they are captive in their own country. We're talking 150,000 casualties versus 1,500. Neither is right.
No, stop, Dale. Stop. Like, you can't just talk about casualty numbers. This is about intent. This is explicitly about intent, right? If you're going to come on here and argue about this, at least fucking learn the understanding and the justification for people who are calling this genocide. We can also talk about the ethnic cleansing of northern Gaza, the deliberate displacement, all of the actual genocidal things that were said by members of the Israeli cabinet about wanting to turf out people from Gaza, Avi Dichter calling it the Gaza Nakba, which literally refers to ethnic cleansing. And we also know from multiple different reports internally, it's been published by 972, by Haaretz, by plenty of places, showing the intent to murder people on grounds of ethnicity. And that is trying to exterminate people in whole or in part. Simple as that. That is the definition of genocide, and they have, as far as I can see from the evidence, that's what they've been doing.
Yeah.
Sorry, just let him answer.
You are wrong to say that's not a genocide happening in Palestine, because it is.
Shut the fuck up, mate. This is not a place where you just get to fucking talk endlessly and interrupt people. Shut the fuck up.
It is.
Let me tell you something. What you don't know.
Dale, you're surely not saying, whatever the case in Palestine is, that justifies rape, torture,
of course not.
Murder.
I said both are wrong.
No, that's why I oppose the IDF. Yeah.
Yeah, remember, again, they can't bring up rape. You can't bring up rape at this point unless you mention Sede Tayman.
Yep.
There was a fucking riot. The Knesset were debating the merits of raping Palestinian prisoners.
Yep.
This is the reality of what the Zionist entity at this point. You can obviously, there has been some reporting, it's patchy, on sexual assault committed by members of the Al-Qassam brigades on October the 7th. Right, there is some patchy reporting on this. There's not been any hard evidence I've seen, but there is. We'll find out eventually. You know, we've only had the ceasefire. Investigations will continue, but the Israelis have admitted that they did rapes, and that's why they debated whether there was merits to it. They admitted it and said, but some people said, yeah, it did happen, but it was good that it happened.
Yep.
Yeah, at least Hamas are trying to say they didn't do it because at least they think that it's bad.
Yep.
I said both events are wrong. I said it very clearly.
Listen,
Hang on.
The only reason I'm going to stop is not because you haven't got reason, but the question was actually about something else.
I don't care, mate, if you've got one more thing to say. Shut the fuck up.
Have talked about Israel and what's happening in Palestine a lot on this programme, and it is something that obviously deserves talking about, and I understand why you feel so strongly about it, but it's kind of slightly hijacking the question that so many people want to talk about. So if you'll forgive me, I will move on, just get back to the original question.
Yeah, you're very much sort of occupying the conversational territory of somebody else right now. If you could respect the boundaries, the borders of this conversation, that would be really cool. Thanks.
Which was about Donald Trump. Matthew, the question from Mark, did God save Donald Trump to save the world?
Yeah, and let's look at that question. Did God save Donald Trump to make America great again? The obscenity of claiming that God has saved your life on Martin Luther King Day, when God did not save Martin Luther King's life,
To be fair, though, the FBI have trained snipers, so that was going to be a lot more difficult for God. Just saying.
And I have, as you say, I've called him a slob and a bigot and a lawbreaker, and I've said that he appeals to the dark side and the chaotic side of human nature. And I understand there's somebody in the audience who wanted to ask me whether I didn't think that world leaders should be given at least 3 months before we start attacking them. Well, we'd have had Liz Truss for 3 months instead of less than 2 months if that had happened.
Yeah, that's bullshit. What the fuck would we give them 3 months? No. If they're literally planning to do evil things, if they're telling you we are going to do evil things, I think it's fine to criticise them for saying that they're going to do evil things. If they then don't do that, fine, I guess, although that would be breaking election promises, but whatever. The idea that you have to give them time to implement their plans, no, fuck that noise. Again, the Nazis burned down the Reichstag within 3 months of being elected. They knew what this was.
Exactly, yeah.
They seized power within 3 months. If no one had criticised, well, I suppose it didn't really matter in the end at all. But, you need to be able to criticise them within 3 months, otherwise they'll have their tentacles so deep it's not going to be really of any use to you.
Exactly.
I don't agree with David Davis when he looks at the things that he thinks Trump might achieve. Greenland, to take an example. There's a deal to be made between the United States and Denmark about Greenland, a deal that I'm sure the Danes would want to cooperate in. But to claim that he's just going to take over Greenland actually makes that deal harder to achieve.
Yeah.
The Green Revolution.
Because the Danish government now have to defend to their citizenry that they're not just like kowtowing to a fascist. If he just goes to them and cuts a deal, no one cares. They're just signing a deal with America. Of course they are. They're NATO allies, whatever. And they've all, by the way, they've already got massive fucking bases on Iceland anyway, on Greenland anyway. So it wouldn't make that much difference if they also set up mining operations as well. Like, he wouldn't be that big, that intrusive. But now he's come out and said, oh no, we're just going to take over. It's, again, I'm going to keep making the Nazi comparisons because I think they're apt.
Well, again, it's perceived revanchism, right?
Yeah,
both in Panama and Greenland.
Yeah, like you're just doing appeasement. That's what's happening.
For instance, now some people seem to think that that climate change isn't happening. I think Donald Trump thinks that climate change isn't happening. His approach just makes things more difficult. So, as a man who tends to divide people, who tends to set people at each other's throats, and who tends to insult people, and who tends to overstate, I don't think he will achieve even his own goals, some of which are quite good goals. There's quite a bit of Trumpism that's right, but Trump is not the man to achieve most of Trumpism's goals.
And do you think...
Oh, he means the killing brown people at the border, right?
Oh yeah, ending gender ideology.
Yeah.
We've got Lucy here.
By the way, can we just say, why was gender discrimination not baked into the law? Why was that left as a fucking presidential decree since 1965? Why was that? Why was he able to just come in and with a stroke of a pen get rid of that?
But he cared about the women's chat. That's the whole point. He cared about the women by attacking trans people, and then also taking away a bunch of women's rights as well. And also his justices took away abortion too. Yeah. So many TERFs talk about the victory against gender ideology, and I'm just like, I hope all of the women dying in childbirth are going to be thinking of you when they're going to be thinking of the defeat of gender ideology when they perish. Yeah.
Also, you can tell that Nigel Farage really cares about the women's when he is photographed with convicted rapist Conor McGregor at the inauguration,
or even civilly convicted Donald Trump, the rapist.
Yeah, or Elon Musk, who literally offered a woman a horse to shut up about the time he showed his penis to her without any consent whatsoever.
Just the defenders of women, chat.
Yep, it's all about saving the women's and the girls. Honest.
It's being very cautious about what it's saying about Donald Trump, and being careful not to be critical.
Of course.
As it obviously has been in the past, when not in power. Do you think that's the right approach?
Yes, the government... I'm a columnist. I can be as rude as I like about anybody. There are no consequences for me. if you're the Prime Minister of this country, if you're the Foreign Secretary, you have to bite your lip quite a bit. And we're going to need the best relationship that's achievable, and this may not be possible with the United States. So I wouldn't suggest that Keir Starmer call the man a slob, but I can call the man a slob, and I will.
Okay. One at the back in the glasses.
So I think I just want to, Matthew, encourage you back into a leadership position. I read your
And
column.
anyone say those things.
I read your column on Monday and was so disgusted with that paragraph that I put it down. Because having been in the States in the summer and driven across Illinois, Ohio and Michigan, my God, the support for Trump was there in all the poor towns and villages.
Okay.
And sorry, but then I went back yesterday to read your article, and by the end I was like banging a drum and thinking, this is what our country's short of.
Honestly, there's some of the silliest cunts in the world live here. Honestly,
it's true. I mean, again, it's just like this. What's happened?
It's not that she's necessarily wrong. It's just you think Matthew Paris is the answer to anything. Matthew Paris is the answer to, if there was a human being I could use as toilet paper, who would it be? That's it.
It's just like you had the people who were there to try and put money back into these areas, the poorest parts of the country that were abandoned by neoliberal centrist politics from the Democrats and from Labour. The people who had to fix it with Sanders and Corbyn. Like, you had your chance, you blew it,
Yeah.
and now Trump and Farage are going to put even more money into the population centres and into the pockets of the super rich. Like,
yeah. Yes, Mad Cat, Trump is a fascist. And hello there, OnlyFact. Everyone going for OnlyFact on various platforms. Is Paris even British? Well, it's Paris with 2 R's, so that joke doesn't even work. You've embarrassed yourself.
There is a lot of support for Donald Trump, and a lot of good people support Donald Trump, but they're wrong. And millions and millions of people can be wrong. And they've made a mistake.
Woman here in the front.
If God did decide to save Donald Trump in order for him to make America and the American people great again, do the Labour government and Keir Starmer ever think they'll put Britain and the British people first eventually?
Oh, Lucy, I'll let you answer that.
What? The fuck was that question?
I mean, she's nationalist. Like, she said putting Britain first because she believes they should get Britain first. That's the ideology she's going for here.
Yeah, but like Trump has literally already said Israel first, so like.
True. I mean, to be fair, at least that's a position that both Keir Starmer and Donald Trump can agree on.
Hello there, James from the internet. You
Hey.
fucking degenerate piece of shit. No, I'm only joking. Hello there, everybody. I'm Kevin Logan, a dickhead from the UK, a country full of other dickheads. Joining me is my favourite dickhead. It's No Justice MTG.
I'm queen of the dickheads.
Literally. And you can hit the follow button. And you should hit the follow button. You should. And you should go over to No Justice's channel and hit the follow button there.
And my YouTube channel where you can subscribe, and Kevin's as well.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube as well. It's sexy.
Going back to what I was saying before about
Yes. Britain first or some shit.
Going back to what I was saying about class collaborationism earlier in the stream as well, where that's why it's all about like the imagined community of America or Britain making this nebulous national entity great again. What do you mean by great? No, it's unquantifiable, but you want to feel like it's good, feel like it's better.
Yeah.
And that is, of course, the ultranationalism that has been channeled into Farageism and Trumpism, these kind of the ethno-nationalist far-right ideologies that these people have been supporting. And that is the whole point of this, is so that people forget about their class disparities. Is so that you forget about the fact the oligarchs are standing behind Trump and standing behind Farage, because they want you to get mad at the little guy, mad at the people you're fighting against in the rat race, rather than to ending the rat race.
Yeah, exactly. Get annoyed at brown people at the border rather than Elon Musk literally owning more than your town. Yeah.
Exactly, or or the amount. Because again, even if you're a liberal capitalist, even if you're somebody who believes in free market economics and the triumph of small businesses, like we are both socialists, we believe in workers' control means production. But even if you do believe in like small-time Smithian capitalism, these kind of oligarchs are bad for you as well. Like, there's the techno-feudalism that we live in, as Yanis Varoufakis would call it, where these oligarchs control the platforms that we use. If you want to be a small business, you have to send a cut of your money that you make from the work that you've done, the effort you've put into from the effort you've put in to build up your small business. A very small portion of that has to keep going to Amazon if you want to sell on their pages where everyone goes to buy things, because that's the platform that you do shopping on, to your consumer electronics or whatever. If you want to have a takeaway, if you're a locally owned takeaway, tiny little small business, right, you have to give a cut of your profits to Uber Eats and Just Eat, because that's where everyone goes to be able to order your stuff from. Like every single time you try and interact with the market now, even if you have a website, you have to pay for Amazon Web Services. Like these oligarchs, these techno-feudalists, they are the ones who they're scraping off the top because they own a bank of servers somewhere because they have a market monopoly. That's bad for you. Like even that's where I think that a lot of socialists and liberals can ally in fighting against the oligarchy, because the techno-feudal empire that's been created is there that undermines both workers and the petite bourgeois. So it's the absolute nightmare position. But of course, that's not what the nationalist project is there for. It's to try and make everybody under the national banner.
Yes, indeed. Sorry, I got jump scared by my own sound alert again. Sorry.
Is it Return of the Sausages?
No, it's Mark Goldbridge, who's a football twat, anyway, going, I don't want to do this anymore. But because he's away from the microphone when he did that bit, it sounds sort of echoey, so it sounds like it's in the room with you. And it shits me up every time because I totally forget it's, anyway. Thank you, Super Tiny, who says clefticles. So you scared the shit out of me to say clefticles. What the fuck does that mean? Thank you.
Have you got Birmingham as a fucking shithole onto your soundboard yet?
No. Because I say that enough anyway. So I don't need the sound alert. I say it with my face. Yeah.
It came up on my TikTok page as a Hope Court edit, and I was just like, perfect.
It's a fucking shithole. The people are dickheads. Yeah. It's okay now. That guy, he's actually like, he's moved out of the city now, and he seems quite chill and happy. Like genuinely, he does. I think he still does YouTube, or he did afterwards, and he seems like a lot calmer now. He lives in the countryside. I think he just needed some trees and grass and shit. Just some countryside around him. Just fair enough.
Birmingham really is the concretiest jungle of the concrete jungle.
It didn't like we went. Let's just put up brutalism everywhere. Let's just do that. And then we're too poor to change it now, so we're just fucked. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, James from the internet, for resubscribing. 44 months. Seek help. Thank you to the new people joining. Aren't you the people just across the American Ocean? That is literally true. I was going to put down, someone did an edit of the North Sea as the Gulf of Britain. Oh, you cunt. Oh, fuck off. Just got jump scared again. Fuck off, man. Hang on. Oh, I need to get used to that. Thank you, Vicky Clue says, behind you, you fucking little shitbag. Thank you. Oh, I need to get used to that. That's not okay. My heart can't stand it. Right, should we get on with this fucking terrible television show we're watching?
Let's do that.
Let's go.
Well, look, I mean, on the question, I'm not going to really get into the motives of God. That's definitely above my sort of pay grade. But on the wider issue of the relationship with Donald Trump and opinions on Donald Trump, and it's much easier, by the way, it's much easier to write a weekly column than it is to run a country and all of the things that involves. And as Matthew said, look, Donald Trump was elected with a very clear mandate, with a very clear agenda, and he won that election pretty clearly. Let's be honest.
No, he didn't.
Also, like, let's say, okay, he won the election, fine. How was it possible that the election when he was president was stolen, but when he wasn't president, it wasn't stolen? He was really bad at election safety as president, man.
Clearly. Yeah, exactly. Like, 1.5% was the victory margin. It wasn't even a majority, it was only a plurality. Like, it's one of the closest in percentage point terms in the elections that we've had in the 21st century, I think. The only closer one in terms of percentage was 2000, was it? Bush Gore?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Like, everything else was way bigger. Like, both of the Obamas, like, Hillary Clinton was a couple of points ahead of Trump in 2016, it was just an electoral college thing, and Joe Biden got more votes than any other president in history, and still does.
Yeah.
So,
well,
it wasn't a big mandate.
His first election was the 4th narrowest electoral college victory in American history, and the second tightest in a 2-party race.
Yeah, so
Because usually it takes 3 or 4 big candidates to split the votes that much to get that low. But
yeah, exactly.
he won by a statistical quirk.
Yeah, quite so. And so, yeah, I mean, the response here isn't to say, well, there's a clear mandate, so we have to follow. We have to say, well, no, America is divided. Like, if you really want to be diplomatic, if you really don't want to call Trump out for the obvious fascist that he clearly is, then you've got to appeal. Like, if you want to try and couch it in some level of diplomacy, you've got to say, well, America is very divided. It was a tight election, which shows that there is no clear direction America wants to go in. That some people want some things, other people want others, and we've got to deal with the fact that in communicating and dealing with America, it's between two different, completely disparate, divisive, and conflicting attitudes within society that are kind of irreparable. And that is the challenge, really, of dealing with America, is that it's not just Trump you got to deal with, it's the fact that half of the fucking population think these awful. His approval rating is already negative, and he's only just become president.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't want to be diplomatic, you can just say the Americans are fucking idiots. Yeah.
I guess, to be fair, acknowledging that 1.4% isn't a huge mandate, then you'd have to, although 49% isn't a huge mandate, you then also have to reckon with the idea that 33% is definitely not a huge mandate, which is what Labour are working on right now.
Yeah.
Of our strongest and most enduring allies, and he's got every right to run the country and make the decisions on the basis of having won that election as he sees fit and in what he thinks is the right approach for his country. As we were elected 6 months ago with a clear mandate for change, and we have every right to...
Literally, I called it.
And you haven't. You've just carried on doing austerity. Yeah, okay. At least Donald Trump is changing some shit. Like, he had a plan. Or a concept of a plan, anyway.
A plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
To run our country the way
the gist of Mark's question, I think you were being a bit sort of facetious probably about did God save and save the world, but the point is he going to make things better? So let me put the same question you put today. At the end of his term, do you think America will be better than it is now?
Well, it's not for me to really... It's just not really for me to judge that, is it? I'm
Yes,
not
it
an American.
is.
I'm not living
Yeah.
there. I'm not on the, I'm not on the end
this is the
of
dumbest
those...
thing. This is the dumbest fucking thing these people do. Well, it's not really my place to comment. Again, you're supposed to be ideological. You're supposed to have a
You're a
belief
politician,
system.
yes.
Yeah, which as you run on for the election, and therefore you should be able to judge whether the people in America are going to be better or worse off based upon whether or not you ideologically agree or disagree with it, and what your conception of better or worse is.
And I know they have to be diplomatic as members of the government, but you can still say, well, I don't necessarily agree with all of his policies, but I wish him well. Or something like that. Or like, I hope he makes America better, or something like that. But
I
just
hope
to say,
my concerns are not...
yeah, exactly.
Are
Yeah.
not going to be realised.
Yeah. Whereas actually she's like, well, I can't have any opinion because Morgan McSweeney will shock collar me again.
On the end of those decisions, he can, obviously he's well within his rights to sort of take the decisions that he wants to take for America. I think what's important from the British point of view...
Okay, Maria, whether it's his plan or the Heritage Foundation plan, someone had a plan. In Britain, our government just doesn't have a plan, by anyone else or itself. There's just no plan.
That's true. Whilst Heritage Foundation were plotting Project 2025, Donald Trump was plotting how to win people over through podcasts. And during that whole time period, Labour together were busy attacking Corbynites and forgetting they might have to run the country in 4 years' time.
Yeah. What's this? A Danish MEP, Anders Wittersen, says "fuck off, Mr. Trump" in the European Parliament. Cool. Oh, nice.
Yeah, it came up on my TikTok feed. Yeah.
Good lad. And he's a right winger, apparently.
He's joined the Liberal Party, right? Venstre?
I don't fucking know. They're all foreign. I don't really think they're people. Are they people? They don't sound like people. They've got letters that don't make sense. That's not a real alphabet. An O with another 2 O's over it. What the fuck does that mean? What is this?
We I see myself as a member of the government almost as a custodian, if you like, of that relationship with America. It's not for me to come along, or for Keir Starmer or for anybody else to come along and destroy that very special relationship.
But the relationship
But
is
it
going to
is,
be
though.
transactional.
It is, and you could also say something like you can even be sort of passive aggressive about it and say, we as the British government support the World Health Organization and will continue to be a member of it. Because you're basically saying Trump's a prick for not being in the WHO anymore. What a wanker.
Yeah.
But without saying that, you just say, we, the British government, and then state the British government's position.
And it's frustrating for her to say, well, we can't possibly change the special relationship. We have no mandate for that. Well, I mean, just admit that you like it.
Yeah.
Like, you can run on a position of saying that you support it. There are plenty of reasons to break off that special relationship. I would like to break off that special relationship. I am sick of being a vassal state of the United States empire, whether it's on trade policy, whether it's on economic policy internally, whether or not it is on foreign policy, because we don't get a choice in loads of these things, because Atlanticists are fundamentally part of all of our democratic institutions, even though their positions aren't even necessarily held that much. So again, I made this point last week that one of the reasons why I think I'm kind of leaning towards kind of rejoining the EU if we don't have to join the Euro, just because do I want to be with the fucking Americans or do I want to be with the Europeans? It's fucking obvious.
Yeah. I think I'm with you on that. Yeah. And again, when they say we don't have a mandate to change this, that's because you specifically didn't include that as a policy. So your actual policy is the status quo. So you actually support the status quo.
Yep, exactly. And it's really worth pointing out that there's the thing called the Britain-America Project, which is essentially the big kind of international institution between the two to kind of broker Atlanticism. These people were fundamentally involved in Labour Together and Keir Starmer's project and were part of the plan to take down Jeremy Corbyn because he was not an Atlanticist.
Yeah.
Like, the special relationship is only seen to be unshakable in Lucy Powell's terms, again, because she supports it, but also because these people are incredibly powerful within the right wing of the Labour Party, because they know that there are wings on the other side of the party who do want to undermine the quote-unquote special relationship, because what's it given us? It gave us the Iraq War.
Yeah.
It gave us Afghanistan. It gave us Libya.
Thanks. Yeah, that was awesome. Enjoyed that.
It made multiple of our governments complicit in the genocide in Palestine. It's not good for us. It's bad.
Yeah.
And these are the same ones. A lot of these are the same ones who fucking bang on about British sovereignty, making Britain break it great again, and they're all just fucking cucks for Atlanticism. They're all just complete cucks for the American empire.
The same people who are like, British sovereignty, we have independent foreign policy, are fine with the fact that we had to put the Chagos Islands thing on hold because Trump was going to have a say on it. I'm sorry, do we get to make decisions over our own territory or not? Because that was British territory, right? So surely it's totally in our independent foreign policy hands to say, no, actually, we're going to give that land to Mauritius. We're going to hand over sovereignty to Mauritius. But apparently America gets to go in and go, no, Britain, sit the fuck down, bitch. I'll take over from here.
Literally, exactly. America and Russia are busy duking it out, and we're sitting in the cuck share.
We literally are. We are
the cuck boy bitches of America. And all of our politicians are very happy with this arrangement because Atlanticists are embedded in all of these parties. And when it comes to Nigel Farage and Reform UK, they're just open about the fact that they care far more about being vassal states of America, being America's little bitch boys, than of wanting an independent or sovereign Britain.
Yeah, exactly. They're literally, special relationship. Ooh.
At least in the EU, we were a rule maker. We helped decide policy and was democratic amongst all the nations of Europe. When it comes to our special relationship, all that happens is America say jump and we say how high. Doesn't seem very sovereignty to me.
Yeah.
But there are many things that we could transact over in our common interest.
That's my point.
On defence, on global affairs, on trade. And there are many areas that we will seek to work with America on our common interest, because he wants to do what's best for his country, we want to do what's best for ours, and there are many areas where we can work together to do that.
He will be very tough-minded about it, but so will every American president. So we have to deal and find what's good for both of us. That's the main aim.
Absolutely. Man here in the front.
God created Adam and Eve, and Donald Trump's policy.
Not Adam and Steve.
Not Adam and not They're not Adam and pronouns.
Yeah, not they and them.
A two-gender. What do the panel think about that, please?
I mean,
yes,
I think the most important point to make on this, the most important point to make on a bunch of these stupid executive orders, is what Bernie Sanders said in his message about Donald Trump's inauguration. Did he talk about cost of healthcare? No.
Nope.
Did he talk about the minimum wage being $7.25 an hour? Nope. Did he talk about the housing crisis? Nope. Nothing here to do with any of these things. But they're very busy legislating over what's in people's pants.
Yes.
Shall we? So Donald Trump basically said that the US will
Why?
only
Why are we
recognise
talking about this? Why?
It's so dumb. But also, just on that note, he made Adam and Eve. He then made Cain and Abel. Who were they fucking? Did they fuck their own mum to create the next generation? Because so far she was still the only woman, right?
It's funny to me that this sort of Cain Abel. Those are some incredibly non-binary coded names. Let's be real.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And Cain killed Abel, or the other way around. I forget which one was which. Anyway,
two sexes, male and female.
Which is wrong.
Yeah, well, there are two sexes. There
No,
are two
wrong.
biological sexes.
Wrong.
Gender
There's
is a different
intersex.
thing to sexes in those sort of definition terms, but there are two sexes.
And shutting down all the diversity and equality and inclusion offices in the government?
Well, that's not an approach we take in this country because we have many inequalities in our country, and that's something that this government.
well,
is
thankfully
seeking
America
to-
doesn't though. America's like the most equal place ever, right? So that's fine. Don't need any of that.
Yeah, no, yeah.
address.
What redlining? Redlining? What's that? Can possibly comment.
Yes, you know, women are paid less than men. If you want to define what a woman is, it's someone who does the same job and gets less money for it, does all the caring
Okay,
at home and gets no
pause.
thanks for it. If you want to have a conversation.
If you want to talk about trans people, if you want to talk about the pay gap, how we should talk about the transgender pay gap? You know who gets paid even less than cisgender women? Trans women. If you divide the population between cis men, cis women, trans men, and trans women get paid less than everybody else.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, there is still a gender pay gap. I think it's somewhat being ameliorated, at least to a certain extent there. It's still present, though, at this point. But the people who really get the full brunt of discriminatory hiring practices is fucking trans people.
Yeah.
About what a woman is. There are many deep-seated inequalities. If you are from a black or ethnic minority background in this country, you face many prejudices and many problems. So we do have to strive out those inequalities. There are regional inequalities in this country as well. One of the big reasons that we don't have the
How
growth
about
that we want.
pause?
So-
We're asking about Trump.
How about class inequality? Are you not from the Labour Party? What?
No, because the Labour Party doesn't exist anymore. It's just the Red Tories.
True.
Trump's policies, but okay. Let's move on. Take another question from Andrew Lamb. Whereabouts are you sitting? There you go.
How can we expect the economy to grow by increasing the cost of business, with additional national insurance and rising costs of the minimum living wage?
Right. So obviously this is something that was introduced by the Chancellor, by Rachel Reeves in the autumn budget. Dale, let me come to you as a person who's running a business on this panel.
Okay.
What do you think?
Oh, well, I think it made sense, actually, the budget overall. Rachel Reeves raised to £40 billion, and 90% of people in our country were not worse off, and I think that was almost a conjuring trick. It was real, but it had the feel of something that was a bit surreal. I think business can afford more national insurance.
So when you've got some of the supermarket bosses like Sainsbury's and Tesco and Boots and M&S actually saying that these increases would lead to higher prices, what you think they actually can afford to absorb them, they're just not doing it?
Yeah, because look, if you look at the rate of tax that businesses pay, it's they pay the lowest tax of anybody in our economy. Corporation tax is about 24%, but it's paid on profit. So we all pay income tax, and at the top rate, that's 45%, but that's on income. Businesses get to take all of their expenses out, including national insurance, before they pay tax on their profit. And that's a very special place for business to be.
And when they talked about job losses as well, do you think they were wrong about that?
Well,
honestly, if people understood how badly they're being fucked by this system, there would be riots.
Exactly.
But
100%.
the media does the manufacturing consent so well.
Oh,
It's
true.
ridiculous. This never gets mentioned. Again, Panama Papers happened. It was in the media for a week. Nothing, it went quiet. Fucking the journalist gets exploded. No one even mentions it. Absolutely fine. Or Luigi. Look at Luigi. That went quiet pretty fucking quick. Almost like they were like, oh shit, actually, us focusing on this media story is making people look at the issue. Maybe we'll shut up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like it's all the manufacturing consent machine going crazy. Like they'll try and look at something that is a tax for the wealthy, right? For people with lots of assets, which is the people who are the wealthiest, right?
Yeah.
It's not high earners. It is the wealthy. They are people with lots of assets. Any tax that might affect them, like stamp duty or capital gains or a wealth tax or indeed inheritance tax. And the media will narrow down on like the tiny little sliver of like some high earners who might get affected by it and then act like it's the communists coming for your toothbrush.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
again, like...
yeah.
Look, 4% for states pay inheritance tax, yet it's what City AM described as Britain's most hated tax. I'm like, none of you are going to fucking pay it. None of you are going to pay it. No one who actually needs to care about it is going to pay it.
Yep.
And yet we constantly have these really niche corner cases being used as somehow demonstrating that Labour are coming for your toothbrush. And it's ridiculous.
Socialism. Nadine Dorries said it, so it must be true.
Most sections of our economy will complain, will whinge when there's an added tax or an added cost. You look at the farmers with the inheritance tax. That was a loophole. Why were farmers exempt from an inheritance tax? I don't think they should have been. So I think business can afford it. I think it was the right thing to do. I mean, there was the 22 billion black hole inherited with which to deal. There are problems across all of our public services with which to deal, and we have to raise money somewhere. I think the thing that Rachel Reeves could have done in the budget, which I would have done, would be to balance our tax system so that capital gains tax was equal to income tax. And that would have raised £12 billion a year. And also, if we had a modest tax on wealth of just 2%, on any wealth over £10 million, it would affect 20,000 people and raise £24 billion a year. You add those sums of money together, and that's almost another 40 billion raised. It could have been raised in that budget. The people with the most money in our country pay the least tax, and that's not right. And they make their money from the economy that's built with our taxes. So it's right that they should pay more.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. Wow.
Biggest round of applause of the night for some basic social democracy.
Exactly. And again, I was surprised that he was so forthright in putting forward stuff that was part of the Green Party policy platform that he tried to campaign against for the Labour Party, who are now not doing the things he says that we wanted. But whatever, at least he's putting the rhetoric out there now, because he's 100% correct. He's 100% correct about the fact that we should be equalising capital gains with income tax, because capital gains is unearned income. That's not labour you're doing. If you have these things taxed lower than income, it's an incentive to make your money from being unproductive. And we have a productivity crisis in this country. If you cut tax on productivity, increase tax on the unproductive, the economically inactive, people who make money from capital gains or from rent, then that's an incentive for more people to go out there and do something and build something, to be productive rather than sit on assets.
I was about to say the rent seekers need to be dealt with. Definitely.
100%. We're a rentier economy.
Yep.
It's all just inflating asset prices. It has been ever since 2010, and probably before that too.
Yeah, for the James from the internet people, if you're still around, get the was it all landlords are leeches bit. All landlords are bastards. Yes, emotes.
Yeah.
Your leech emotes.
Well, I'm old enough to have seen through these cycles many times over. We've just got another soft socialist government.
There you go. He's an idiot. I told you.
They probably mean well. They don't really like.
I told you. See, that's good. I'm glad you scratched that itch. He was a sensible, normal person for the first bit of the show, but I told you he was a wanker. I'd just wait for it. He's going to be a wanker. Here we go. Here we go.
That's the thing. It's so silly too. I also want to make another point, which is that one of the things that Dale Vince mentioned in his bit was that businesses are getting mad at the increase in the minimum wage. which is supposed to be this big burden on businesses. And a lot of discourse online is about how hiring is down and unemployment has gone up, and they are blaming the increase in the minimum wage for this. Now, there's no evidence that this is true. This is from a bunch of kind of monetarist this is from some monetarist groupthink and some like classical economics I'll start that all again. This is from some classical economic groupthink that just puts the supply-demand curve down, flops onto the table and goes, there you go, disprove you. When all real-world studies that have been done since like the 90s, or the majority of them from labour economists, have shown that minimum wage doesn't increase unemployment, because it means that the consumer class has more money to spend on the commodities produced by the other people with minimum wage jobs. So it actually doesn't increase unemployment. Card and Kruger showed this. Aaron's Rajat Dubey has showed this loads of times. This has been shown by scientific studies, real-world studies on these things. So that's just a bunch of bollocks. When people say, "Oh, I can't run my business because I can't pay the minimum wage," if you can't afford to pay the minimum wage, you don't deserve to be in business. Simple.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. All landlords are parasites. That's the one. Yeah, that's the emote.
The profit motive, but they realise that they can't do without it if they want growth. They prefer the public sector, and they prefer things being done in the public sector than through private enterprise. And they're really reduced to almost to paralysis, to standing around on the margins of things, fiddling a bit with this and fiddling a bit with that. Rachel Reeves has made a few mistakes. I thought the way she handled the winter fuel payment thing was brutal. She could simply have taxed people on the winter fuel payment. That would have been fairer. And obviously the national insurance employers increase is going to cause less employment. Nobody really can seriously dispute that. But again, she's not a bad person, and they inherited a pretty bad economic situation.
Well, actually, one thing I want to point out.
Conservative.
When he says, "Oh, well, that's going to lead to a lack of employment directly," well, hang on, if you're shifting money from the private sector into the public sector and then increasing public expenditure, this is happening both in terms of taxable income being spent again on day-to-day spending. That's something that's happening right now because that's one of the fiscal rules, is spending the tax receipts on day-to-day spending only. But they've also increased the level of expansionary policy because they changed the rule on how debt is calculated.
Yeah.
Which doesn't take into account like financial investments of the government because they make a return. So you can borrow for certain things and they're not head up on the balance sheet. And that's mean that they're spending more money. There are some things they're cutting, which isn't good, but more money is being spent in the public realm, more on the NHS, for example. And that creates jobs too. Like just moving it from private to public doesn't destroy the money. It doesn't destroy jobs. I mean, the money being spent is from the government and then being taxed back, but that's a whole other story. So to try and say that it was going to cause more unemployment, no, it's just shifting where the employment is happening.
Yeah.
Now, there's a reason why the Biden administration massively increased state spending under the Inflation Reduction Act. Unemployment went down and wages went up.
Yeah.
This is full employment economics in its purest form.
Yeah.
I just feel a little bit dismal about the whole thing. We're not going to grow as she hopes. She doesn't really have the instinct, I think, to help make the economy grow, and we'll just limp along for another 4 or 5 years, complaining bitterly and getting nowhere. Sorry to sound so depressing.
But I remember
Also,
when
hang
the
on a
minimum
minute.
wage was first proposed by Tony Blair, and businesses...
But they say that we're not going to get growth because we're taxing too much, or there's too much public sector. Well, we had higher aggregate growth from 1945 to 1979 than we have had from 1979 until now, when we're much higher tax. There's much more public sector before Thatcher happened. Why have we grown less post-Thatcher when we did what you fuckers wanted to do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's a very, very good, pertinent question, which they'll never even attack. It never gets mentioned. Thatcher's like the fucking elephant in the room, or Thatcherism is the elephant in the room that just never gets mentioned. It's just, it's the one opinion. It's the one opinion you're allowed.
Exactly. Why is China growing faster than we are when they have massively more state involvement in their economy? They're literally a state capitalist economy. Like, why are they getting more growth than we are? Because they have fucking state investment into things like the tech sector and into green energy.
Yeah.
and the Conservative Party said that it would cost jobs, we'd lose jobs, and it's become a part of our life now to have a minimum wage that always goes up. So I disagree with you that this will cost jobs.
Okay, woman with the dark hair and sort of in the middle there. Yeah.
Question for Lucy. If you're not able to answer the question about whether America will be great again after Trump's term, can you answer whether Labour are going to make Great Britain better after Labour's term?
Well, it'd be surprising if she said.
Oh God, fucking Reform MPs Lee Anderson and Rupert Lowe have called for the Stockport murderer, to receive the death penalty.
I mean, there's loads of public support for it. There's always been public support for the death penalty, and it never gets resent.
But that's literally not possible. Legally speaking, like, that can't happen. We don't have it.
Oh, it's just messaging, isn't it? It's just fucking outrage politics.
Absolute fucking nonsense, man.
Yeah.
No, given that she's representing the government, I hesitate to say, but let me just get a couple more points and then I'll come to you, Lucy. The woman in the red, you've got a red top just behind you.
I feel that whatever has been done by the government regarding people like Sainsbury's, they pay this, that and the other, they are multi-people. They've got loads and loads of money. Those little tiny small businesses who want to expand and want to employ those couple of extra people are not going to be considered. They're going to lose out.
I think that's a good point, actually. Because in the new taxation for national insurance for employers, they didn't just raise the rate, they also dropped the threshold too. Like, I agree with raising the rate, I disagree with lowering the threshold, and something that more smaller businesses were caught up in this. And whilst, I don't have a personal attachment to any amount of bourgeois business, I am a socialist after all, I at least understand the political implications of this, right?
Yeah. So you're very much petty bourgeois pilled.
I mean, I just think if you're going to piss people off with your budget to try and fix the nation's finances, you piss off as fewer people as you possibly can, and just making it so that there is a group of people who aren't massive mega corporations, who at this point, let's be real, we're not getting international socialism tomorrow, but the biggest threat towards functioning societies and towards regular folk, regardless of whether they are petite bourgeois or proletarian, is the gigantic mega corporations that are swallowing whole economies, because there are corporations now which have bigger GDPs than entire countries, right? They are the real enemy. That's my first port of call, is to attack these people. Yeah. And if you get the petite bourgeois on side against these corporations now, you're never going to gain enough political power or influence to take on the bourgeois as an entire category later on.
True, yes. But have you considered that the mum and pop store can't buy Arsenal tickets for Keir Starmer? So, checkmate.
True. Yeah, 20 Minutes Pizza cannot buy Keir Starmer an expensive pair of glasses.
Exactly.
I work for a limited company, but it's a social interest, community interest company.
Oh, communism.
Delivering
okay.
NHS and public and local authority, so public sector contracts, public sector prices, and won't be exempt from any rises in national insurance or minimum pay wage. So although the public sector bodies may well get some support, companies such as myself who are delivering those services, subcontracted, won't. Is there a...
How many people do you employ?
4,000.
Oh, so quite a big...
Oh, small.
Have you worked out
tiny
how are you able to absorb the costs, or are you going to have to do something like lay people off? Or
yeah, there will be structural changes we'll have to make. It's a 1.4 million impact from national insurance estimated. And we deliver community nursing services. It's a community interest delivering healthcare.
So when you say structural changes, what do you mean?
And there will have to be changes to the model in which we work, the affordability of the contracts we can deliver for the NHS and local authorities.
Is that what you... Do you think that's what Rachel Reeves had in mind?
Well, look, there's two. I'll come to your specific case and then I'll take some of the broader points. The reason I was asking how many people you employ, because the national insurance changes that we've brought in, 75% of that income is raised from the largest 2% of businesses. 50%, half of businesses, will pay no extra national insurance, or in fact many will pay less. And
but you've got a specific, a specific example here,
well, then on
of someone who's in a company which is providing things, you could argue, for the public good, and is going to be affected. So is the message to her, well, someone was always going to be affected, tough luck.
Well,
or is that not what you intend?
Yeah, and obviously on the NHS sort of contract point, part of the a huge part of the money raised has gone into record levels of investment into the National Health Service, which will of course feed its way through to all the services that the NHS provides, whether that's nursing, whether that's social care, whether that's GPs,
but in terms
and
of her
others.
company specifically.
Yeah, so that's what I've just said about her company specifically in terms of her contracts from the NHS. But look, there's no
She's shaking her
question.
head. So what should go on? What were you going to say?
We are commissioned through our the NHS commissioning bodies.
Yeah.
The prices and the challenges that are being faced by the NHS roll into our contracts. So the challenges they face coming through our will be seen through our organisation, and we are a social impact organisation who reinvests any profit we make back into community services to tackle inequalities, to tackle health inequalities as well as social inequalities. We are unable to do that with no support for the changes that have come into place. But
You
the public
haven't yet
bodies will.
negotiated the sort of contracts for next year where this will be affected. But look, the bigger point here is that this budget, as Dale said, this budget and what this government is seeking to do, which, yes, is to grow the economy, which, frankly, after many, many years of stagnant growth, which is caused by, in this country, is caused by low productivity, it's caused by having a low-skilled workforce, it should be a higher-skilled workforce, it's caused by having too many people sick in our workforce. We've got 7 million people on the waiting list, unable to work in many cases, an economy over-reliant on immigration, frankly embarrassing infrastructure when you compare our country to other countries around the world. And these are deep-seated structural problems
My
in the
God,
economy.
hang a minute.
Which
Whoa,
we
whoa, whoa,
can't
whoa, whoa. She spent this entire time going, look at these secondary problems that are causing economic decline. And at no point, at 0 point in that little spiel there, did she mention the actual reason for all of this. Who is it, chat? Who's the reason for all of this? Yes, exactly, Solly. Sounds like George Osborne to me.
Oh God, you're such a hater. You're such a Gideon hater.
True, it's true.
I'm very much in that camp as
exactly.
well. Yeah.
If George Osborne has no haters, then I am dead.
Yes.
Address overnight. And that's why the budget, as well as the black hole that we inherited, and we did inherit this woeful situation in the economy.
Oh God,
the budget.
I'm sorry to make you pause again here, but she's literally detailing all the problems of austerity economics, of the problems of the fact that they took money out of the economy during the George Osborne administration, because he was basically in charge, even though David Cameron was Prime Minister. She did all these problems, didn't mention him or the austerity word at all, just a load of other second-order problems that was caused, and then circles back by finishing off and going, and the real problem with the Tories is they spent too much money. They left a black hole. They overspent.
Yeah,
like she's literally taking all these problems that were from a lack of spending and then try and say the Tories spent too much. I'm done. I'm just done. They're rhetorically infuriated. They are going to dig their own graves with this rhetoric.
Yeah, exactly. They're the adults in the room. They're just the inheritors of the adults in the room.
Yep.
A very clear decision that what we needed to do was deal with these deep-seated challenges. That's why we needed to raise extra money for the NHS to get the waiting list down, get money into education to get the skilled workforce. But we did take a decision that those with the broadest shoulders, so the large businesses that can afford to absorb that, those with the broadest shoulders, while protecting.
Okay, which also includes your business. I'm going to move on, but just pretty satisfied with that answer? Yes or no?
Not particularly, no.
No. Okay, David.
Right. Well, first off, the impact on wages of the national insurance is £17 billion. That's not a Tory figure. That's the Treasury figure. Understand it? £17 billion. And which wages do you think will hit?
So it's 17 billion of wages because of the minimum wage increase. So that's going to be money in the pockets of people who are going to go and spend it? That's a bad thing?
But that's bad because people having money is communism.
True. I mean, his argument essentially is, well, that money is better off in the pockets of people who are shareholders and not in the pockets of people who do the work.
That's literally Tory party policy, yes. That is literally Toryism to its core. Yes.
Yep.
You think it'll hit the ones at the top? No, it won't. It'll hit the ones at the bottom. You talked about business. Well, big generalisation, business. The people who are going to be hurt by this are the small businesses who've just struggled
They're
out of
protected from it.
just struggled out of COVID.
They're protected from it though, so that's
just struggled out of COVID. Well, you heard about
it's not a small business. It's
well, wait a minute, but you heard
4,000
about the social service business.
Yes, which
then
will be protected in
let me
other
finish
ways.
the story. Let me finish the story. Then
but it's not true. So
then you've got this issue of the assault on inheritance. The inheritance tax issue with farmers was not a loophole. It's because farming is a low cash, high asset business. It's to keep farms operating in the countryside. Yeah. I have a rural constituency. There are farms now who are going to be sold out to big business, sold out to the likes of Dyson, because small family farms can't continue to operate. Now the tragedy...
Not because of inheritance tax.
Let me finish this. The tragedy of this is the whole Labour strategy is based on growth, right? That's a very sensible strategy for getting a country.
Yeah, they have pressed the grow the economy button, so everything will be fine.
As it were, back in play. The first half of this year, before the election, we were growing, not brilliantly, but we were growing. The best in G7, as it turns out, but it's still not very.
Jesus Christ! Just make stuff up. Say it was the best ever. Just make it up completely. Just say we had the best economy that ever existed.
It was the best economy. We've never seen a better economy. So many countries are jealous of the economy that we've created. It wasn't growing much, but it was growing a hell of a lot more than Labour would. It was growing a hell of a lot. It was very growth-oriented, our economy. You've never seen such a thing. I want to point out as well, thank you for pointing out for Ben in chat, saying, like, why does Dyson like buying farmland again? It was a high asset, low turnover business. I'm like, why are the asset prices so high, David? Why are the asset prices so high? Simple as that, because there's a demand for it to use as an inheritance tax dodge. It's a recent phenomenon. That's why these things had to be changed. It wasn't revenue raising. It was about affecting how the market dynamics worked in farming. And also want to pick him up before. Somebody said that when he's saying that the wage cost, he said the wage cost was 70 billion. I think that's the numbers on how much wages are not going to go up by because of the increase in national insurance, potentially. And again, I'd have to see those numbers. But even if that's true, well, that's just money that's going into the state for them to spend on public services that would be used by people who would otherwise be getting wages. So they're getting it either way.
Have we considered doing a meme coin? Call it UK coin, right? And we can get tens of billions from idiots. And that will solve all of our problems. If Trump can rug pull, why can't a country rug pull? It's the future.
Wait a minute, let's just be clear, because this is... No, wait a minute, David. That is a statistic that is quoted by Conservatives virtually every week on this programme. Let me just put it in context. UK GDP was 2.9% above its pre-pandemic level in 2019. US GDP has grown 11.5% in the same time. So when you talk about it being the highest in the G7, briefly, yes. Yeah. Overall, not at all.
Well, better than Germany, better than France, better than Italy, better than Spain. I'm afraid, we aren't in the American game.
It's not. Well, hang a minute. It's not better than Spain.
No.
It's not better than Spain at all. That's not true. Again, he's trying to pick this singular month where they had like random growth that was higher than some other places that were kind of in recession. I mean, Germany was in recession at that point. But overall, since the pre-pandemic levels, we are not higher than most European countries. And especially
they're lying is the basics.
Exactly.
Of it. Yeah.
And especially not against other social democratic economies. Like Norway grew 3% every single year after they ended lockdown, right? They're 9% above where they were in 2019. And they are a far more higher tax economy than we are.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's no way we're going to follow their method.
Hey.
Oh, God, we're shit.
I love how his answer for that was, well, you can't compare us to America. Why not? We're not in their game. The fuck does that mean?
Hang on, you're literally saying the G7, which like includes America. Yeah. So, I mean, you are comparing us to America.
Exactly. And again, this isn't about the kind of political bloc. This is about policy.
Yeah.
This is about what policies economies are employing. And of course, the US is going big fiscal, which is what European economies aren't doing because they literally cannot do so because they are bound by the monetary policy rules of the European Union. or indeed bound by the fact that they don't have sovereign monetary policy because they are part of the euro and they are at the behest of the
And that
European
was
Central Bank.
one of the core arguments of the Lexit movement, was that you can't really do proper socialism or even really sort of big social democracy under the EU, which is sort of true, actually, yeah.
I mean, you can do some levels of social democracy.
Oh yeah,
and
you
there are
can
plenty
do.
of
You, I mean, plenty of the countries are, like you say. Well, Norway isn't, but like several of the other Scandinavian nations. You know, there is plenty you can do, but you can't. Like, there are limits to that because you're not really properly sovereign in that sense.
Exactly. You can't do the kind of more radical policies. Because, I mean, you can't always do big fiscal, right? In the boom years, you can't ever risk doing huge amounts of fiscal. Otherwise, you can end up pushing yourself into an inflationary spiral like what it was in the 70s in the UK. Like, this was blamed on Wilson and on Callaghan, but this was the fault of Barber and the Barber boom and the huge new budget for the Go for Growth strategy that then immediately tumbled as soon as oil prices went up, which was the fault of the Conservative government's foreign policy. So Wilson and Callaghan were left holding the fucking bag after we were not hawkish enough on Israel, so much so we were boycotted by Arab nations for oil, and this spike in import prices meant that we had a stagnant economy with loads of new money because of the boom, and so we had an inflationary spiral.
Yeah.
The highest growth for a century.
Sure, I know, but you're just saying we had the highest growth. I'll just put it in context. That's all I'm doing.
As I said, it wasn't very high, but at least it was growth. Now there's no growth. Now, the problem with this, to come back to my point on their strategy, and the tragedy of this, is that this leads us...
Are we also just going to ignore the basic problem with capitalism that you can't grow forever?
I mean, that is also true. I mean, I guess depends on whether you can get some kind of like digital growth, in which case maybe I don't know.
Or if we take over other planets, if we start colonizing planets, that's possible, I guess. I don't know what's on Mars, but let's go for it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, there is always the problem. There is just only a finite amount of actual physical resources that you can mobilize.
The problem with capitalism is that you run out of other people's planets to colonize.
Also, I want to point out as well, I thought it was an important point I was going to make, and I've completely forgotten what it was now.
That's fair enough.
Oh yeah, talking about why we've not grown recently. So I made this point 2 years ago now around interest rate rises. And one thing that's important about interest rate rises is you only really see their effect in the economy around about 18 months after the actual base rate is risen, and then you start seeing the effects of those base rate changes filter throughout the economy. It's why that people kept trying to attribute the downward pressure on inflation to rate hikes when it happened outside of that window. Within that window, it happened within that window, so it didn't actually have that much of an effect. It was just the price shock going through the system. We're now just past the 18-month mark of like all of the rate hikes that push the interest rate up, which is slowing economic growth. It's why we're seeing members of the Bank of England Monetary Policy Committee looking at the lack of inflation from the inflation figures going down in January and going, shit, we've overcorrected. Now that the growth has been taken out, because we are feeling the effects of higher rates, which does slow growth, they're going to emerge and say, well, let's do 6 rate cuts this year because they want to put growth back into the economy. We're going to have to wait a year for that, over a year. But to try and put this lack of growth down to fiscal policy, when monetary policy failure from the groupthink in the Monetary Policy Committee is equally, if not more, to blame, in my opinion, because we are now feeling the effect of those bad rate hikes from 18 months ago right now, because that's how long it takes to affect us.
Yeah.
To a spiral of decline. Because next time round, the Chancellor, Rachel, is going to have to find money to cover the costs that are not covered by growth. And so we'll have more taxes. And so we'll have even worse growth prospects. And that's not going to fall on the rich. It's not going to fall on the big corporations. It's going to fall on the ordinary people just above minimum wage. And that's the tragedy of this budget.
Okay.
Well, no.
We will come back to this subject.
No, not really, though.
No.
I mean, it might well do, because Rachel Reeves doesn't want to tax the corporations and the billionaires. She could do taxes that would affect these people, but she's not doing it. So he's saying, but the point he's making here isn't that she won't do it, is that these measures inevitably end up taxing those people in their paychecks. But that's not necessarily the case. That would be a choice that would be made. It's not an inevitability. And even then, I think that the rate cuts probably will lead to growth. I don't buy this at all for 1 second.
last question, because, yes, it's particularly pressing this week. Charlotte Adams, where are you? Oh, brilliant.
Is Lord Stuart Rose correct in saying that working from home has put work practices back 20 years? Should we all go back to the office?
Right, so
No.
Stuart Rose, former boss of As and M&S.
No. There's plenty of opportunity to work from home. And again,
anyway,
COVID exposed that capitalists were fucking lying when they said, well, you can't work from home. But they knew it was possible. They just didn't care because it was the cruelty was the point, or the control was the point.
Yeah, very true, very, very true, exactly. They want to be able to monitor you, and they can't do that, even though the studies show that productivity goes up working from home.
Yes.
In a lot of the sectors. There are a couple of sectors where maybe it does have a negative effect, but in the vast majority of cases, the scientific information, the peer-reviewed information we have on this, is that you see an increase in productivity from working from home.
Yep.
That's something that we know now. My gambit here, because this is not pre-watch, this is now 20 to 12 on the day of release. My gambit here is that nobody who agrees with the sentiment is going to bring up any actual peer-reviewed information on this whatsoever. And what they're going to do is say, well, I reckon you're less productive because I think you're there wanking rather than doing work. They're doing some they're going to kind of gesture at the idea that workers are slacking off at home without actually looking into any of the literature whatsoever. That is my gambit.
Well, again, that's reactionary politics in a nutshell. It's all feels.
Yep, feels over eels.
Of course, you speaking to the BBC, and he said working from home is creating a generation of people not doing proper work and contributing to the UK economy's general decline.
Eat
so,
my
Matthew,
poo.
I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
I bet you probably don't spend much time in the office.
Whereas being a CEO is proper work.
Exactly. As I mocked James Watt on my segment earlier today. The real jobs is where you spend like fucking an hour a day in a boardroom and then spend the rest of it away tapping away on your MacBook in Starbucks.
Yep.
You can write your columns from home, but in principle.
Yeah, I've worked from home for the last 30 years or so, and for a columnist, that's fine, because I don't need to talk to anybody. I can pick up the phone if I need to. I can do my research online.
Okay,
and
hang on a minute. Let me stop you there, Matthew. You don't need to talk to anyone, but you can pick up the phone.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed before, Matthew, but the thing that you use the phone for is talking to people.
It's largely a verbal thing, yeah.
He's gonna go fucking spare when he finds out what Microsoft Teams is.
True.
You can hear
Make
and
my
see
own
them.
timetable during the day. Have a coffee when I want to. Take an afternoon off when I want to. I just have a deadline, and I meet that deadline. That's easy for me. But if I work in a business which is collaborative, where you have teams, where people want to talk to each other, pop over to somebody else's desk and ask them...
Yeah, we get it. No one wants to talk to you, mate. Yeah, we get it. We know.
And also, like, going over to talk to someone's desk, again, you just message them on Teams. It's interesting.
Yeah.
You have to work in Teams, but you can also work with Teams, the Microsoft Office app. Teams.
Yeah. Also, or like in my... I do sports journalism on the side. We've got a Slack. We can just... If you need to message someone about something, you can just do that. It's actually fine. It works out very well, and we are literally on different continents, and we make it work.
What's interesting as well is that the people who benefit from working from home are like software developers who make this kind of stuff that is there to facilitate working from home, and they've produced a product. They've produced a new product that people are therefore buying off them, that they've put labour into doing.
Yep.
Who makes money off of us going back into the office? It's commercial landlords who just own assets and do no fucking work at all. They're totally unproductive. And yet these people are happy for loads of money within our economy to be shoveled into the pockets of rentiers of office space rather than actually into productive outcomes.
Yeah. But no, it's just because the modern slave master wants to whip his people. That's it.
They literally tried to put webcams up when I was working from home because they wanted to be able to...
Oh my god. How fucking dystopian is that? Why not put a fucking computer... Why not just put a screen in my wall and Big Brother can monitor me 24/7? You fucking creepy bastards.
Whilst you're cycling for 15 million merits.
Exactly. Well, exactly. You better not be keeping a diary.
where you get a sense at the workplace of what's going on, what the company's doing, and you learn to meet your colleagues and get to know everyone.
Well, of course Paris is out of touch with the modern world. He's wearing a tweed jacket. What the fuck? He's like, are you a Oxford Don from the 50s? What the fuck is wrong with you?
It's quantum lepty.
Yeah, he's doing some J.R.R. Tolkien cosplay.
Something collegiate. I don't see how that can be achieved by working from home. So I think there are circumstances when it works, but there are an awful lot where it doesn't.
And also lots of jobs clearly where people cannot work from home, let's not forget.
I think I disagree with Stuart Rose. I think that's wrong. I think it's a very old-fashioned retrograde attitude. We experienced work from home to its ultimate extent during the pandemic.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That was a real shock in my company. Everybody
It
went
really
home.
did. It exposed the
everybody-
fucking lie. Like, not just that, but like, this is a way in which, like, disabled people can be added into the economy and can, you know, feel much more useful than they've otherwise been allowed to by allowing them to fucking work from home. We saw during COVID the lie that the capitalists put about this. No, we have to go into the office. We have to go into the office. No, it's because you're controlling little fucking jumped up Hitler cunts. That's what you wanted. You wanted fucking control. Fucking evil, man.
It could work, and so there was furlough and stuff like that. And what we found is that there were people that didn't like working from home at all and wanted to be in the office. There were people that didn't like working from the office very much at all and wanted to be at home. And then there were people in the middle.
Yeah, exactly.
As we came
Like,
back
there
from
are
the
some
pandemic,
there are some people who want to work from home and some that don't. There are some industries where it would be impractical and impossible to do. Okay, fine, but there are loads where just a tiny bit of flexibility from the ownership would allow for this. It's just they don't give a fuck.
100%.
Because when they talk about having a flexible economy, they don't mean flexibility from the owners of the industries. No. It means you have to be on call 24/7. You have to be the fucking beck and call of these capitalist bastards. That's what they mean.
That's a really good point by Satnav in chat, actually. But Pret needs your money. I swear down the amount of times I've heard people go, well, think of the coffee shops when people say that we're working from home. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, some businesses are only suited to certain economic conditions. Like, are we going to have to, cry about like the end of the steam engine business because of the invention of the Benz Velo? Like, come on. Like, unfortunately, things move on. And maybe I think a lot of the workforce would be happier doing something far more important for the economy than making coffee. Like, I'm sure there are people, every prep barista out there is going to go, well, at least I can get a job that's a little bit more rewarding than making coffee all day.
Yeah.
Because there'll still be demand there. Like, the people who work from home, they're still going to spend money, but they'll spend that money on something else. On their local coffee shops, potentially. There'll be more cafes in where they live that they can go to, because people will work there. And so it won't all be all the same prets in all the same central business districts in all of the cities where all of the economic activity happens.
Yep.
Experience of working from
Oh
home.
no, but my central business district. No.
Change their attitude to where they wanted to work, and people have did begin to come back into the office because they missed the experience of being amongst colleagues, and actually found that there were certain times of times of the day, there are certain events where you need to be together, and then there are times when you can just work from home. So what we found is that actually what we need is a balance. People able to work 2 or 3 days a week, perhaps from home where the job allows it, and to come into the office when they want to. But our experience of it is that people now increasingly want to come back to the office for the experience of being in the office, but they really appreciate being able to be at home a day here or there because of the difference that makes the quality of life. I prefer it myself.
Okay. Man there in the pink shirt with the grey top.
Yeah, I agree that there are some downsides to working completely remote, mainly, it can be harder to make friends in the office. If you're new at a job, sometimes you can learn quicker if you're working next to people. But for the most part, I think there are huge benefits to working from home.
Yeah.
Personally, I've got a master's degree, so you'd think I would be fairly high skilled, but I'm in a graduate job that has a fairly low wage. For me to commute to work on the trains, mind you, I've not got a Mercedes. It cost me around $5,000 a year to commute, and I couldn't afford that. So it would cost me around £12 a day. It cost me,
That's another good point, actually.
Yeah.
It's
Excellent
a lot better
point.
for the environment, the fact that I'm
obviously this person takes the train, takes public transport. That's saved them money.
Yep.
Right, that's more money in their pocket, which I'm sure they prefer, not spending money on transport and spending on other things, which isn't just facilitating them making money. Feels like you're making a loss at that point. But there are plenty more people who would otherwise get the car to work, working from home. It's probably had a drastic effect on overall emissions.
Yeah.
It's good for the environment.
It is. It's good for the environment. Good for air quality and all that shit as well in the CBD. Thank you, Vicky Clee, for nearly killing me with that fucking voice alert again. Hide and seek. BBC still seeking. Stream will up. What? I don't. Yeah, the stream is still up. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate the money and for telling me the thing that I know. Much love.
Able to work from home. I'm able to do some household chores when they're needed, whereas if I was commuting, I would have to add a couple hours a day onto my work, and then I wouldn't have time to do anything after work.
Isn't it those household chores that Stuart Rose is referring to, I wonder, when he says... But anyway, the woman next to you, do you agree?
I actually have two separate part-time jobs. One you cannot do from home, and the other one I do from home. I'm sadly unable to work full-time. I don't have the medical strength to do it. But when I'm working from home, there are days when I felt really poorly, but I'm able to work.
Which you might not have been if you'd had to go.
No, if I had to go into an office, I couldn't physically do it.
David?
Yeah, when we had COVID, when this first started, really, the House of Commons went to working from home. I hated this, being old-fashioned. I turned
and
up.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I'm sure you will. I'll come to you in a minute. I turned up every day, or every sitting day.
Spreading COVID?
No. Listen to the end of the story. I turned up, and it was like attending a parish council in a palace. You know, there were 12 of us, so we're nowhere near each other around the chamber. There was a limit on who could sit in the chamber. The House of...
Yeah, exactly. And then they had fucking video, so you could video conference, because that's a thing that's possible in the year 2020. Like, it's not actually that difficult. You wouldn't need... Physically, you don't need to have a parliament building. I think you probably should, but you don't need to.
Well, there was a really dumb moment. I remember a really dumb moment from the pandemic where Jonathan Gullis was giving evidence in a parliamentary debate, and he wasn't wearing a jacket. And they were like, how dare you? I mean, I don't like Jonathan Gullis for a whole multitude of reasons, but the fact that he was appearing on Video Link for the parliamentary debate and they were reprimanding him because he wasn't wearing a jacket, that's some fucking dumb shit.
That is some dumb shit. The nation needs to modernise. It needs to get with the modern world. But we're still going to have powdered wig wankers in the fucking House of Lords. And if you're not wearing a jacket and tie in the House of Commons, you're a piece of shit. What the fuck is wrong with you? What? You know they still use fucking Gaelic French for some official bits in the House of Lords as well.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's only like about a dozen different phrases or whatever, but they still use weird like medieval shit. Fucking crazy. Anyway, but no, this is the organisation that's definitely gonna lead us through the modern world. Definitely gonna deal with cryptocurrencies. These people, yeah. Amazing.
Yay.
Commons failed completely to do its job. Many of the failures during COVID were because the government wasn't held to account by the House of Commons being there. Now that's a rather special case. But before I was
I mean, okay, but like the government were also dickheads and did eat out to help out. Like they literally went, tell you what we should do during a contagious pandemic. Let's incentivise financially people to sit very close to each other.
Thanks, Rishi.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks.
Let's make it. I sure hope he never became Prime Minister.
Yeah. What next? A tax against not coughing in people's faces? I don't know. What? I tell you, you'll get paid minimum wage to go around and lick door handles. What?
So Ben says, sounds like Kevin has forgotten about the House of Commons modernisation quango. I know Ellie Chounds is on that committee.
Is that true? Oh no. Of course there's a quango for it.
I mean, just give them like voting, like electronic voting things.
That literally, straight away, you could save so much parliamentary time. Have them press a fucking button.
Literally,
and you could have the result.
We've
boom,
had it on
straight
Who
away.
Wants to Be a Millionaire since the fucking 90s.
Yeah, exactly. And virtually every other fucking parliament in the world has it. Yeah, you can just press your button, boom, done.
And the crazy part is that the only reason they don't want this is because the fucking whips in the parties are absolutely power-crazed fucking idiots. Absolute power-crazed tyrants who don't want to give up the ability to pressure people in the voting lobby.
Yeah, they want to be able to physically intimidate and bully people into voting the way they like. That's it. That's the reason that we waste, I mean, hours and hours and hours of genuinely precious government time. Because there are bills that die because they get timed out, because there isn't enough parliamentary time. So why not save the hundreds of hours every year we piss about with dickheads milling back and forth for 20 minutes and 30 minutes to get a result on an amendment to a piece of minor legislation that you know is going to die anyway, so what's the point of it? It's a complete waste of time. Have them press a button, boom, there's the result, moving on. But no,
Exactly.
no, you can't. No, we need to allow a fucking Tory to go up and threaten to stab someone's fucking kids in the lobby. I'm not suggesting they literally do that, but it was literally, I think it was John Prescott said when he was the first became an MP, one of the chief whips came up and grabbed him by the bollocks and threatened to beat him up if he didn't vote a certain way. Now, it may have gotten slightly better than that, but that's only because there are cameras now. I imagine the threats are still there, just not the grabbing genitals bit. They leave that for the bars.
In the House, I was in business, right? And I started off at the bottom, as we all do. Now, some people, of course, can't work from home. The shop workers. I
don't think we all start from the bottom, do we? I think some people, especially those with, I don't know, people in high places, they don't start from the bottom at all now, do they?
Are you suggesting Elon Musk didn't start from and Donald Trump didn't start from the bottom?
Australia, well, he did start from the bottom with the small help of $1 million.
Small loan of $1 million. Small loan of $1 million. Look. If you wanted to be rich, why didn't you come out of the balls of a guy that owned an emerald mine in apartheid Namibia or wherever the fuck it was?
Zambia.
Zambia. Yeah, amazing. A bit brave to grab John Prescott's bollocks. Oh no, yeah. To be fair, because John Prescott's the kind of guy who would fucking lay his forehead on you, but he didn't because he was, scared, I guess. I don't know.
The factory workers and so on. But even in an office worker, there are lots of things that are not dealt with in a meeting on Zoom. You're talking to your colleague over the, by the coffee machine or the water cooler. Things you learn from the person in the next desk. People you can ask questions to without making a big deal of it. It's really, really important.
God, David, why? Have you not heard of the concept of an instant message?
No. He doesn't know what that is, no.
Literally, yeah, if you want to have a water cooler chat with somebody, but make a big deal about it, you fucking IM them.
Yeah.
You search them on Teams and send them a direct message.
Yeah.
Again, fucking boomers. Parliament of boomers.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Talking of fucking old school shit, there has only been one attempt to abolish the use of French when in the House of Lords passed a bill in 1706 for the abolishment of the use of the French tongue in all proceedings of Parliament and the Court of Justice. The bill failed to pass the House of Commons, although the use of French was abolished in 1731 in courts. But still in Parliament, yeah, French is fine. Because I don't know if you realise that, but the French took over.
It's true.
And so lots of our words are just French. Like, is it beef? Instead of, like, cow is from the Scandinavian, right? From the Nordic. But beef is from French. Beef. Indeed. Anyway, so there you go. Yeah, French tongue. Yeah, get your giggles in. Come on now.
Most people work in an office.
We haven't got much time left, Lucy. I must come to you. Can I just point out this rather fabulous statistic that we found? The number of golf games played during the working week has increased by 350%.
Nice.
Well, the people who are playing golf.
I rest my case.
The people who are playing golf, people didn't have fucking real jobs to begin with.
Yeah.
This isn't about working from home. This is about wealth inequality.
Yeah.
The fact that our society is now more unequal because there are more people out there who are rich enough that they can go and play golf because their job involves making money off their rental properties or their share portfolios, or by sending a message once a day to say, please don't burn down the office whilst I reap everyone's surplus value. That's why they're playing golf. It's not because they otherwise would be working from home. What the fuck is this? This is a state broadcaster.
Yep.
That's those, yeah. I'm not going to get
How's
into
your
that.
golf?
I'm not going to get into the
how's your
golf.
golf?
I'm not going to get into the golf. I think you'd find probably women are busy putting a wash on, but anyway, doing something else.
I mean,
Look, I think there's no I don't have an ideological sort of political kind of point of view on this issue.
On any issue, apparently. You don't have any opinions on anything.
I love how they're in government now. They're in government now. They have the liberty of being able to have opinions and then use them to formulate policy. It's not the election. You're not trying to win an election. That period was 6 months ago, Lucy, where you wanted to not scare any of the horses in case they bolted away from you electorally. So you pretended to be everything to everyone. You're in government. You've won the election. You can have an opinion now. And yet they still are fully in election mode of not saying anything in case a certain sector of the electorate disagrees with them.
Well, no, Pat McFadden hasn't told her what her opinion on this is, so she doesn't know.
True. Morgan McSweeney hath not deigned to provide her with the position that she should be held the official party line on this one.
Gave an excellent answer there in terms of the, there are many advantages and there are some disadvantages. It can be horses for courses. But I
mean, what do you think about, you've got a situation, for example, with one particular union, you've got staff at the land registry, for example, saying that they will strike indefinitely after being ordered to return to the office 3 days a week. Do you think that's reasonable?
Well, I think it depends on the types of jobs you're doing. I mean, look, one of the advantages...
Working in the office 3 days a week, does that sound onerous to you?
Well, if you just let me say the point, I mean, one of the advantages, I think, of having more flexibility, and we know that flexibility in the workplace does increase productivity. It does mean that you can retain skilled workers. You're not having churn of workers so much, and you can train them up. But it also means that some jobs don't need to be done, let's be honest, in London and the South East all the time, or where we have high, expensive housing, where we have poor transport, as was already said about commuting in every day. And it has opened up, I've spoken to many businesses, that's opened up opportunities in their business to people who live in Stockport who wouldn't otherwise be able to get that job in the company, because they can now go to the office 1 day a week or for a few days during the month, and they can do many of those tasks at home. So we have great talent in this country that's not just in London and the South East, and this is one of the ways I think we can really spread those job opportunities around the country.
100%. Good answer.
Wow. Okay, she went. I wasn't expecting it to go anywhere, but he went to a decent place. Okay.
It's true. And she also gestured towards the increase in productivity. It's interesting again how neither Matthew Parris nor David Davis, as I predicted right at the start of this segment, I absolutely predicted they would not bring up any actual data or peer review or study on the actual effects on productivity. They just gave wishy-washy gestures of what they reckon is happening. I called it, and I was absolutely 100% correct. I'd also like to answer Fiona Bruce's question about unions striking over being asked to go back to work. It's their right.
Yep.
They are absolutely within their right to say, you shouldn't make us go back to the office. We prefer it. We don't want to. And if you'll force us, we'll go on strike. We'll use our collective power as workers to get the outcome we desire.
No.
The only
When
justification is the fucking, as we said, the control. The control is the justification.
No. When we said free market economics, we didn't mean free market like workers are free. No. No, we meant the workers have to do everything the free market people want. And that is
true.
Yeah.
We've only got about 20 seconds. You asked a question. What's your view?
We've talked a lot about parental responsibility tonight and how important it is for parents to be aware of what their kids are doing. If I had to commit to a long, unreliable, costly commute, my son would see a lot less of me than he does, and so can't have it both ways, really.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing. Okay.
Very
Thank
good
you
point.
very much.
Yeah, that's fair.
We must end it there. Thank you
Well,
very
I would
much
say-
for all of your contributions. Thank you.
To finish off this point about childcare and working from home, it's really important if you want to have a flexible future where we're having both parents working. because neoliberalism demands that people must work, productivity must rise, everybody must be working all the time, right? And this is the world that we want to create. And of course, in terms of gender equality, women and men should be allowed to work whatever time they want to do so, and for whichever dynamic and whichever split of the work that they do. If we're going to have people doing those things, having access to be able to look after your kids whilst both parents are working saves money on childcare. And on top of that, gives them more time with their parents, which is precious in our world of ever continuing increases in the hours we have to work and the time we spend away from our kids. Yep. That's a good thing. But this has to be tempered with the fact that, unfortunately, it can't just be women that do all the housework and do all the kids and do all the childcare. If we're going to have this thing where everybody is working all the time, we should also be sharing the childcare duties too. Because one thing, the problem with a lot of kind of liberal feminism is that as we've discussed how we can create girl bosses, yet we haven't actually fundamentally undone the gender disparities in terms of housework and childcare. And women have been turning away from feminism because they're being expected to act like homemakers and housewives and as girl bosses, and you shouldn't be forced to do all of those things.
Yes, that's actually an exceptionally good point. Yes, well done. I have nothing to add. 10 out of 10.
No notes.
Correct. Yes.
Wow, the audience, I think in the entirety of this panel, we had like 2 good points from the panelists and 4 from members of the audience. So well done, audience. That was an excellent question time where you answered your own questions. And these 4 talentless bellends were sitting there doing nothing in response.
To be fair, I'd say Dale Vince was okay.
Like, Dale Vince was good on the budget, Lucy Powell was good on working from home, and for the rest of it, nothing.
Yeah.
Oh, so fair. Dale Vince called out the genocide as well, so we'll go 3 good points.
Ineffectively, but yes, he did. And that's,
he did. This was one very good answer, but yeah, he did say the genocide was bad.
True. Okay, who should we kick everyone over to?
I do not know who's live. Let me have a Barney. Barney or Butchers? No, I have a Butchers. That's the correct.
That is the correct one. The only person I can see is... I'll send you over to Vosh on YouTube. Why not? Fuck it. Go say hello.
No, Ariana Jasmine is live over on...
Ariana. We've had a lovely week this week, because she and I, we bonded a long time ago. We were on a panel with Destiny when he was defending Carl Rittenhouse. And so we've bonded over the years of like how much of a piece of shit he is. So him being outed as the piece of garbage that he is this week was nice. We've been it's like a judge me by my enemies type thing. It's nice.
I mean, it's been a real judge me by my enemies year so far. First of all, we've had the guy, the Labour right guy outed, or accused of some very awful act that apparently he's done, and it's just like Jeremy Corbyn has spent the last how many years at this point going judge me by my enemies. And in terms of the streaming community, the online commentary community, we can all be judged by our enemies now because it's fucking Destiny.
They're awful. When was the last time a Zionist wasn't like a sexual abuser?
It's just so many of them at this point.
Yeah, like it's almost synonymous, frankly, at this point. Anyway.
Oh, speaking of Destiny, that's what Ariana Jasmine is currently watching.
Well, that will be fun, I think, certainly for my audience. Your audience, a little bit more highbrow. Not sure, but you should give her a follow anyway because she's awesome.
Definitely. I said, what's Destiny answer this garbage? Watch the President Sunday video. If you want to understand exactly what's been up to with Destiny, the President Sunday video does a really good job of collating all of the ground in one place.
Revenge porn. He's been doing revenge porn.
He's been doing revenge porn.
Recording people without their consent during sexual encounters.
Yeah, so
gross.
he's been non-consensually sharing pornographic media of people that was taken without their, which was sent without their consent.
Indeed, so.
So technically it comes under revenge porn legislation, but whether it is or isn't in the purpose of revenge, I don't know. But it certainly was non-consensual, and that is a crime.
Indeed. So go and check that out, and I'll be back tomorrow. You have your day off Friday, don't you?
I will be. Everyone go follow Kevin on KFLogan1875 to watch him tomorrow with Christy.
No, not with Christy. No, she's away this weekend.
Okay, fair enough.
Anyway.
No worries.
But on my own, chat, come and keep me company.
Well, in which case, stay safe.
And free Palestine.
Free Palestine. Enjoy Ariana Jasmine. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
What's up? Kevin and I were direct victims of destiny. So, hello Raiders, welcome in, welcome in. I want to talk about real quick what we're talking about, and then we're going to get straight back into it. My team and I did hours of